Alright, hey folks, so I am going to be doing a speedrun of the 9.2 campaign on the PTR. Now, this is something I'm mostly doing for personal practice, but I also figured it would be a good way to show people how to do it to make their experience a bit faster. Now, I'm estimating this will take about 3 to 4 hours, might be a little longer, might be a little shorter, we'll see. And I do want to give this little preamble up front because I want to explain why this is really important. So obviously everybody's going to need to do this once on a character. Everybody knows that. Now, if I talk to Talinara here, you'll see I have been to Zereth Mortis before and I have met Pokopok. Basically, this is the campaign skip thing. It effectively skips you past the first 3 chapters. So it skips you to forging a new path, if you can see it over there on the map. Now, I actually don't recommend doing this, at least unless you just really don't care and just want to enter the raid or whatever. But if you actually want to get your alts prepared properly, you need to do this campaign on every single one of them. You cannot skip it. And that's important because it gives about 2,100 reputation, which I would say roughly translates to 3 days of progress for the average person. Now, the first 3 chapters of the campaign, which is the only part you can skip, takes maybe an hour. And I would say that spending 1 hour on each of your alts to get 3 days worth of reputation is absolutely worth it. And it's not just that. On top of getting 3 days worth of rep, you also get this thing called Cypher Gear, which I talked about a little bit more in my recent video, Alt Catch-Up in patch 9.2. I have an entire section on Cypher Gear. And you get 3 guaranteed pieces during the first 3 chapters of the campaign. If you skip it, you don't get those pieces, and you can only get them as random drops by doing activities in Zereth Mortis. And considering a lot of treasures and stuff are going to be not necessarily mandatory to have those things for, but much easier to get with some of the effects on the Cypher Gear, I would highly recommend just saying, you know what, fuck it, I'll set aside a few extra hours on the alts that I really care about to get this done, instead of skipping it. Trust me, I know it's tempting. I hated the Korthia introduction. Now, basically, now that I've gotten that out of the way, I have most of the stuff set up. I do want to put my flying mount over there, and yeah, I'll use like this as a ground mount, I guess. I already have flying unlocked on my PTR account, so if I were to go to Exploration Shadowlands, I have Zereth Mortis flying. So if I hopped on my dragon when I get there, I'd be able to fly, but I don't want that because I want to get an accurate estimate of how long it'll actually take. So what I'm going to be doing here is until I finish Chapter 5, which is the requirement for getting flying, one of the requirements, but it's the last one that you'll reasonably get, then I will hop on my flying mount because, in theory, by the time I got there on my actual character, I would have had flying, so you can assume that everything designed from that point onward assumes that you have flying. Up until that point, though, ground mounts only, just to maintain, like, accuracy. And also, I have this as my effect, but as we all know, in Zereth Mortis, there is water that you can actually walk on, so I don't need it, meaning I can throw on light step hoof plates. And with that, I can start the timer and hop into the run. Not the second one, though. Can't do that. No. Now that we're getting started, I will discuss things as we get there. Oh, didn't give me the second quest for some reason. But there's like a short RP thing here, and I do want to quickly say, this is my 3rd attempt at this campaign. Both of them didn't last longer than 10 minutes. I've done practice runs, but when I say this is my 3rd attempt, I mean this is my 3rd attempt at actually recording this. The first time, I ran into a really nasty bug that I haven't encountered before, and I effectively lost like 5 minutes and would have had to restart anyway, so I just restarted it from the get-go. And the second time, the servers went down. So it hasn't been going too well. I'm trying to stay positive despite everything, but I also just found out that I did something really, really stupid for the past 2 weeks and didn't even realize it, which I talked about in the first attempt at recording it, but like on second thought, I actually don't really think I want to talk about it. It's like, it's so embarrassingly dumb that I'm just like, you know what, maybe for a future video when I've put some distance between myself and the realization. But it's one of those things where it's like, I found it out just before I began recording this. And that has also put a big damper on just my attitude. But I'm going to try to stay positive. I'm going to try to get this done. It's fun trying to do speedruns. It's just not fun when everything starts breaking. So the first bug that I found was this. If you try to skip this cutscene, sometimes you're not allowed to, by the way. So you're not supposed to be able to skip that cutscene. And every single time that I've done this quest, I've attempted to skip it, and it has told me I can't. The time when I tried to skip it in the first attempt, it worked, and then it failed the quest and kicked me back to the start. So I just took my hands off the keyboard there this time. I'm just like, fuck it, I'm not messing around with that. Here, this is like that world quest in Maldraxxus, where you have to pick the right option, and it's important that you actually pick the correct one, or it gives you a little 3-second cooldown thing. Alright. Gonna gun shoes here. Old trick, but you know, it's still useful. Can run up here by talk to Fareem. And I have to stop my gun shoes. Veered out of control a little bit there, but we're good. I definitely think gun shoes are maybe like a little bit overkill, but the way I see it, it's like some of the quests are gonna be a little bit bottlenecky. Nothing like on release Maw. The Maw on release was definitely really bad, right? Like anybody who did that questing, if you weren't super duper fast and you weren't like ahead of the pack. Oh wait, I keep forgetting I can run past this. If you weren't like super far ahead, you were screwed on Shadowlands' release. So I basically tried to shave off literal seconds on the release, because every single second that you stayed ahead gave you a better chance to not be caught with the pack. And it worked. I ended up staying ahead of the pack on release. Now, I don't think this is going to be as bad, like to that degree. But regardless, I did want to make sure that I saved as much time as possible, because I'm not 100% sure. It's kind of hard to test, right? Because there are some quests where I'm like, maybe this will be a bottleneck, maybe it won't. You never really know until you see a lot of people doing it. And the reality is there aren't like a ton of people on the PTR. There's some, but most of them aren't really doing the campaign. Most people do the campaign once, if at all, and then they just do like world content testing or something like that. So I can't really see how difficult it would theoretically be with a lot of people here. Now, this should be enough to get me all the items I need for this quest. And yep, perfect. Now I can just run to the next quest. Whew, alright. So now that we've gotten like somewhat established in the run, there are a few things that I did want to talk about. I'll wait until we get to like the actual RP section. But one of the main things I want to talk about is 9.2 videos going forward, because I do think that's something important to discuss. It's probably one of the main topics that I've been discussing in my videos lately, but that keeps shifting around. Crap. I always forget that I need to loot this. Right. Collecting. Alright, cool. We're good. Then I get out here. You don't need to click any buttons again. And run over. Gun shoes aren't off cooldown yet. Alright. Yeah, so this is something that I was always planning on doing in terms of like 9.2 videos. I thought, yeah, you know, it'll be fun to do like a speed run of the campaign, but I figured I'd do it later on, just because I was like, yeah, I'll do that closer to release. I had other things I was working on, but I decided to push this up because I've already completed the campaign in its entirety on my main character on the PTR. It's still my monk, so technically the exact same character, but just the first version I copied over. And I know, like, how to do it, and I figure it can't hurt to, like, you know, actually practice it. So I was, like, itching to actually get this done, so I'm like, I want to make sure I'm comfortable with this. But also, I know that I can just sit down and in a 4-hour sitting, get this done, upload it, and have that done. That is something I don't need to worry about. The stuff that I was working on recently was the videos on rare mobs and treasures. That's something I was saying before that I put a lot of work into. I'm gonna pop a glider here. Ah! So, sometimes I manage to get all the way up to that road before this trap activates. I think it, like, has something to do with latency. But the farther into the town you get when this happens, the, like, faster the RP is. Because it ends the moment I get in front of this guy, Elder Craft. So if I get closer, then the RP doesn't last as long. Boom. There we go. And then the quest is done. Law Destructors. So, yeah, okay. Now, this one I can just do normally. It trips me out because I know there's a lot of quests in this campaign that you pick up just by talking to that guy and then Bolvar. But Bolvar's not here yet. And one of the annoying things is a lot of times in the campaign, 2 of the quests will pop up from those broker guys, and then Bolvar will just be sitting there doing some, like, dumb dialogue thing. And his quest doesn't actually pop up as, like, acceptable until, like, 5 seconds later. So you basically have to sit there and wait for Bolvar's quest to actually activate. Because otherwise, you know, you're being inefficient. So I need to remember when that is, because a lot of times while Bolvar does his dialogue, I'll, like, run outside the town for, like, 10 seconds, do part of the objective, and then run back in, pick up Bolvar's quest, and run out again. But we'll see. So I need to kill 5 more Mossworn. Would like to get this guy. This should cover it. I don't like pulling the, I hit 9. Why is it... My key was just not working. There we go. Yeah, I like pulling the melee ones, because the ranged ones will just sit around and cast at you. And it's kind of hard to group them up. And I could use Ring of Peace to bump one closer to me. But I like to save Ring of Peace as like an emergency tool. Because now, in this case, I think somebody else was doing this quest, so there's no mobs around this thing that I have to interact with. But normally there's one mob guarding each one. And in that case, what I like to do is just run up to it, drop a Ring of Peace on it, bump that mob out of the way, interact with it, and then move on. But if I use my Ring of Peace to group up mobs, I can't do fancy stuff like that. Okay, I can skip this. Now, now I'm going to save my gun shoes. I'm going to need them. Like, one of the issues with, like, mapping all this stuff out is I don't have the timing exactly down yet. But, in theory, maybe I could, you know, gun shoes over and then have it up by the next time I need it. But I know I'm going to need it in, like, roughly 3 minutes, which is the cooldown. So I'm not sure if it's, like, you know, if I have time or not. And I don't want to risk being stuck in the position where I know I need gun shoes. And then suddenly I don't have gun shoes. Also, annoyingly, a lot of the NPCs in this campaign can have, like, stuff cast on them. So I've accidentally cast Tiger's Lust on Bolvar more times than I care to admit. Alright. Now I can head out here. And talk to this guy. Yeah, so this is one of them. So you can see here, there's 2 quests, but there's actually 3. One of them's by Bolvar. And Bolvar will offer his quest when he actually finishes doing his RP walk and then a little bit of dialogue. So, instead of just sitting there waiting for him, I'm going to run up here, pull these guys, leave them down, because at least I'm making progress towards one of the quests. And should be able to AoE them down without too much issue. There we go. Alright. Latent protein. Cool. And there's the Bolvar quest. So for this one, I need to get whatchamacallit. Oh, yeah, I need to light braziers and kill mobs. So one of them is over here. And then another one is over there. And then I run all the way down here. You want to do all these in one sitting. Just, you know, saves time. You don't need to travel back and forth. And talk to this guy. Stuck in combat. That's unfortunate. Normally this is where I would use gun shoes, but there's actually one incense burner hidden all the way back here. So that works out. And can I... Just gonna try to make it just above that little hill. And I could have gone all the way down. But oh well. And now we get the second report. Now I need to do a big pull at some point, but I'm going to do that right around here. So yeah, we're going to grab you. I didn't hit it. I got stunned. Target LOS. Weird. It's bugged into the wall. Unfortunate. I like to make sure all the mobs are rounded up before using my Covenant ability, because with the Mechanicos thing, that reduces its cooldown by a lot. So even if I'm losing slight amounts of damage, I'd rather be able to use it on another pull. I won't need Touch of Death, so I can just pop it there. Now we get the incense burned. Can grab this. Servid Grazer, come on. And just to be safe. Alright. Yeah, so during this part, I won't be talking a lot. Obviously, I do need to focus a little bit. I want to make sure I'm cleaving things effectively. But, like I said, there are long, long RP sections. So, when we get to those parts, I can slowly begin to talk about what my plans are. And all that fun stuff. Okay, one more incense burns. Then, now there's a second potential gunshoe spot. So I'm never really sure exactly where I want to use it. But either way, this one works just fine. So, no complaints there. All the incense is burned. We have all the stuff we need. And now we just need the last report, which for some reason is all the way out here. I don't really know why it's so far away from the other objectives. I go up here, cancel gunshoes. Talk to you, and now, like, normally I would actually have my Hearthstone set to Haven by this point, but I'm not even going to use it at this point, so it's not really that big of a deal. But you could hearth back to Haven. I prefer to save it for a different point and just grab this flight path here and head back to Haven. The flight paths in Zereth Mortis are these things, like little translocation pads, which is kind of neat, I guess. Also, I just realized they finally actually finished the animations of that big, like, glowing ball in the center. It's been not working for a while. I didn't notice. Huh, that's neat. Alright. Hand this in. Yeah, okay, so those are the Cypher gear. I will show it in a second, but I need to make Haven my home. So this stuff. First off, equip this, 10% increased move speed. I'm not sure if it stacks with the, what's it called? The thing that, you know, the hoof plates, right? Don't know for sure if it stacks, but, worth equipping anyway. At least, why not, you know, while I'm doing this stuff. So, I'm gonna glider down here, give me some extra distance, bounce back up. Now, it's very important that no matter what you do, you don't use gun shoes during this part, even if you have it up. So, like, let's say I used it earlier when I had initially intended to use it. I would not want to use it right now. And I'll show you why in just a second. Don't want to get in combat here, please. Nice, didn't get in combat. That's good. This I want to put on 7. So now, unfortunately, because of the timing getting messed up, I'm not really going to be able to do this as fast as I can. But that's fine. Oh, shit. Accidentally had the wrong stuff on. Yeah, if you have gun shoes, you can pop it for this section and make it a lot faster. Which, you know, oh well. I can still just run through it. It doesn't matter. But it can be a little bit sketchy. Especially one time when I was doing a practice run for this. The server DC'd me as I was completing this quest. And, well, that's pretty much death. Not really much you can do about that. Now I'm going to drop a ring of peace here, just to make things a little bit easier. I got stuck in the floor there. Huh. And here. Now, Chandris should be following me. There we go. Yeah, what do you... She can be really frustrating. And now she just disappeared. Yes, Chandris is a little bit buggy. One of the other nice things about using gun shoes for this section is it gets you really far away from the mobs once you're done scouting all those points, and then Chandris will usually just, like, teleport to you. But here, she's not. Do I have to No. Yeah, I guess just head to Darien Morgraine. Alright. I can pop gun shoes here, though, and get out. Little bit of a time loss, but, you know, it's not that big of a deal. Yeah, now we're good. So getting to gun shoes for the latter half of that made up some of the time that I would have lost. Alright, so for this section, you need to kill 8 Mosshorn. They're called Dreadsworn for the quest objective for some reason. And then rescue 5 Covenant forces. I would say this is probably one of the first bottlenecks, since the first time I did this quest, it did seem like the Covenant guys were not shared. So I remember having a really hard time actually getting all of them. Just because, you know, a bunch of other people kept clicking on them. And it can be a little bit annoying. There's not a ton of them. Like, even though you only need 5, right? There aren't enough where if there's a ton of people doing this, you could feasibly share it with that many people. So I could see maybe this quest being a bottleneck. Hard to say. But either way, you never know. So I always approach questing in the sense of, since you never know what is actually going to be a bottleneck and what isn't, just, you know, do it as fast as possible. Treat every quest like a bottleneck quest. Alright, fuck it. Touch of Death so I can get out of combat and mount up. And then there should be one more right around there. Right. Forgot the exact location. What's going to be tricky is if, while doing this run, I happen to come across one of the rare mobs that's, like, really hard to find that I've been trying to get footage of. Actually, I haven't talked about that yet, right? So, I said before, one of the main things that I've been focusing on is the rare mob and treasures video, but some of the treasures, the only issue with the treasures one, I should say, at this point, is some of them are bugged. So there are a few treasures that just simply do not work, and I've been trying them every now and then, because, like, there's some comments on Wowhead saying it's bugged, but if you wait a little while, like, if the server gets a soft reset, like, it fixes itself. So I'm kind of hoping that that happens before I can show the treasures. Otherwise, I'll just show them where they are, explain how you're supposed to get it. You know, I don't want to have to do that, but that might be my best bet. But rare mobs, you know, as the name implies, some of them are pretty fucking rare. I've got in, I would say about 3/4 of them. Well, actually, no. I've gotten almost all of them, all except, like, 4. But there are a few that I managed to kill, like, on my first playthrough when I wasn't recording. I was just, like, testing things out. So I have them completed on the achievement, but I don't actually have footage of them, which I would need for the video. So that's a little bit annoying. But, assuming I can find those rare mobs, I would like to be able to make the video about it. But what's tricky is, let's say one of those pops up while I'm doing the actual video, or this video. Then I would have to, you know, stop during the run to get that, because otherwise I may not see it for days. We'll see, though. That said, actually, I should say, 2 of the rare mobs I might not be able to get footage of, so it's only, like, 1 or 2 that I might really need. Nah, maybe like 5 or so. 2 of the rare mobs, though, are absolutely bugged right now. They, like, they're spawned, but they're not... I wouldn't say not attackable. They're just, like, some trigger is broken. That being... I forgot what the name is. It's like the Engulfer and Gluttonous Overgrowth, where I've read comments of how they're supposed to spawn. I know exactly what's supposed to happen. Here I Hearthstone Haven. So I know exactly what I'm supposed to be seeing to spawn it. And I see some of that. Like, Gluttonous Overgrowth will, like, peep out of the ground when he's ready to be spawned. And then you have to, like, pull on these vines to awaken him. The vines just aren't appearing. And that's apparently a known bug, according to comments. Now I just need to wait. And this guy will pop up a quest. Yeah, there we go. Defense nodes fixed. Bolvar gives these quests now. Gunshoes. Yeah, so Gluttonous Overgrowth is bugged, and people are saying it sometimes fixes itself on a server reset. So that's another one of those where just nothing I can do. And then there's another rare, which I'm not even sure if anybody has actually killed on the PTR. Apparently it's been bugged like the entire time the PTR has like been out. It's called... that one's the Engulfer. And every single bit of footage I managed to find of it, or comments talking about it, has said that people got it to spawn, and the moment it spawned, it crashed their clients. No joke, there's videos of people finding it, and it crashes their clients, which is crazy that a rare is broken so badly it can crash people's games. But right now, I haven't even gotten that far. Basically, the way it's supposed to work is there's like a Devourer portal, and the Devourer portal will spawn the mob after you kill some mobs surrounding it. But the idea is like you need to protect this bird from the Devourers, and then it'll spawn and attack the bird. So the bird has spawned, and the bird will just sit there and wait for the portal. The portal doesn't spawn, and then the bird just goes away. And then it comes back like once every 30 minutes. So I'm assuming that maybe while they're trying to fix the issue with the mob respawning, they just remove the portal. But the bird that you're supposed to like defend to help spawn the mob just still shows up, sits there, does nothing, and then walks away because it's missing the second half of the rare. I'm honestly not really sure what's going on there. But as it stands, I've been checking that rare spot for like days now, and the bird is there almost every single time. So that's what's supposed to happen when the rare is about to spawn, but the rare never spawns. And I assume it has to do with the fact that it was like really badly broken for a while. So I'm guessing Blizzard's just fixing it. But it is unfortunate because it means that I can't get footage of that. There we go. But we'll see. A lot of the other rares that I don't have are just really hard to find. Like, one... Actually, it was funny because I was looking for footage for one of the rares which spawns just outside of Haven. And I was like, I could have sworn I've seen this one before, and I realized that in my initial video, the first, like, look at patch 9.2, I actually found that rare while making that video. So I can actually use the footage from that video to, you know, showcase the rare, because it hasn't changed there. Its spawn location is the same. So that was nice. I actually forgot about that for a while. That was something I could check off my list. And then, what else was it? Where's the other NPC? I thought there was supposed to be one near... I can glider from here. Anyways. Oh, because it depends on your covenant. Oh! I see. Okay. So... that, I didn't realize that. One of the characters that I tested this on was Venthyr. And the NPCs that I had to talk to were different.
I trust your hunt goes well.
Huh. So I guess... Yeah, ah, shit, I got aggro. I need to drop this so I can get back to Bolvar quickly. Yeah, so whatever covenant you pick, I guess, changes the order in which you have to do those quests. So, I should mention, in terms of covenants, obviously go into this with whatever covenant you're most comfortable with. Like, that should be a given, right? But when you're doing world content in Zereth Mortis, at least while you're looking for some chests and rares, you should actually be Venthyr, regardless of your spec. Venthyr, with Door of Shadow specifically, is really, really, really useful for getting to certain areas. Now, of course, when it's relevant, I will mention it when I make my guides, but it is something to keep in mind. Like, in the off chance you watch this and then don't end up watching my guide when it's finally finished, keep that in mind. Actually, I don't think that would increase my speed. I can't really tell if it's actually making a difference. If so, it's so inconsequential that I can't notice. So, just gonna stick with my my good gloves, just on the off chance that, like, I forget, and then I have to fight a mob with, like, some crappy 233 gloves that don't have a Dom shard in it. Alright. Oh yeah, so, in case you couldn't guess, it's a Dreadlord. You're not actually fighting yourself. I'm pretty sure I showed this quest in my initial video. I forget how far I was able to get in that. There we go. Now, the moment you do that... Now, one thing I've noticed is, for some reason, Jaina doesn't offer the quest. And then I randomly walked back up here and she did. It might have just been a coincidence. It looks like it was. I'm guessing there's just a set amount of time that Jaina waits before offering the next quest. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. So it was just a coincidence. It's just a timer. Alright. Now we have some RP. Right, so... What else was I going to talk about? I jotted down some notes so I could, keep my train of thought going. Yeah, so... Generally speaking, when I make guides, I want to have, like, as much information and detail and footage as possible. As it stands, though, it's entirely possible that since we're getting close to 9.2's launch, they may not fix these bugs until the last second, and I'm not going to wait until the absolute last second to post, like, a video about something as important as rare mobs. So, as it stands, I have information on every single rare and every single treasure. Like, if I wanted to make a written guide about all that stuff, I could, right now. Because I know all there is to know about that stuff. The difference is the footage, right? I haven't personally found every rare, every treasure, and some of them are, like I said, bugged. So, I can't. It's just not possible. Now, investigate near Genesis Fields. Yeah, and this one I can use Gunshoes on, because there's, like, so much RP, but after we get there, that it's already reset by the time I need it. This one I do remember I tested. So I was like, that's a lot of RP. Yeah, so I would like to make my guides, like the video ones, as thorough as possible with, like, footage showcasing everything. But if I get to a point where I'm, like, 1 or 2 rares off, and the rares are bugged, and I can't show it, and everything else is perfect, and I even have the information documenting exactly how to find it and information about it, then I'll post the video, and I'll just include notes and say, this rare is bugged, blah, 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 but this is how you do it, that kind of thing. But I don't want to do that unless I absolutely need to. So I'm going to keep trying to get that video or get all that footage done. And if by the time that I need to post these videos, I can't get that footage, I'll post what I have. Which will still be very comprehensive and, in my opinion, better than what anybody else has done on the subject. But maybe not as good as I, in theory, would hope it could possibly be. But as long as that's completely out of my hands, fine, whatever. But for that reason, that's why those videos got pushed back as is. And now I was first just going to delay it by a day, but I realized I still needed more time than that to really, do the topic justice. So, bare minimum, I've pushed one of those videos back to Saturday, I'm honestly not sure which one I'll do first, treasures or rares, because I've been working on both of them kind of in tandem. Like, if I do a full scan of the map and there's no rares up, then I start gathering footage on the treasures. Or I check one of the bugged treasures and see if it's, like, unbugged itself or something like that. So I've been spending a lot of time in the PTR just either scanning for rares or, you know, gathering the footage on the different treasures and stuff like that. Now, if I manage to find every single rare, that'll probably be the first one, because I would say that video is more complete. But that one also has much more uncertainty tied behind it. Because treasures, other than the ones that are bugged, I can find every single one. They have no, like, spawn timer or whatever. But rares might just take a while for me to find them for some reason. This one I want a touch of death. Need to get it down to there. Hit the wrong button again. Fuck.
I think that was the last of them.
And now she does some RP. Yeah, so we'll see which one I upload on Saturday. It will be one of the two, either treasures or rares. So I pushed my videos back by like one day. This is coming out Thursday instead of Wednesday. The other video will come out Saturday instead of Friday, etc. And then presumably whichever one that I don't do on Saturday, I will end up posting on Monday. Unless it, like, in the off chance that it's like the rare video, if it ends up taking a really long time, then I just won't. Is this, do I have gun shoes back up? Yeah, I do. Just wanted to make sure. Now, this is where it's a little bit tricky. I don't know if I would have my Hearthstone up in time. Probably not. What? That's a bug. My gun shoes just got canceled. That's not supposed to happen. There's no way to cancel gun shoes besides manually canceling it. Even if you get stunned, it continues after the fact. I'm guessing there's some aura that got applied to me that, like, canceled my gun shoes buff. That's weird. Anyways. Only lost a little bit of time, but that's still a little frustrating. Ah. Okay.
If you won't help us, what about Fareem? Perhaps.
And then, oh yeah, there's multiple different sources that it tells you to interact with. The only correct one is this mailbox here. This will always give you credit for the quest. There's no, like, alternative way to get it. And then...
My ear is yours.
Do not worry. I will watch over this oracle while
yeah, maybe I should have just saved my,
Thank you, Clea.
yeah. Probably should have saved gun shoes for this. Oh well. Whatever. This is why we're doing a practice run. I never said that I had this perfect. I've only done a full run once in, like, a first 3 chapters a few times. And then also, you know, the first few times I do this, I'm not trying to optimize, like, gun shoe usage. I'm just trying to see the quests. Oh,
We should
fuck.
see what they were after. This poor.
But the main idea with, like, practicing this stuff is as long as you have a general idea on, like, how to optimize movement or how to do the quests, you're automatically going to be ahead of people who are seeing it for the first time. Because seeing something for the first time, you have to, like, actually look at the quest and process, like, what is it that I'm supposed to do here? And that's much more difficult if you've never seen it before. So every little second counts, right?
Look, the light here is the
And
same
then-
as the one that hides Haven. This is surely where we will find Fareem.
Roll in here, trap. There we go. So more RP. Yeah, so whatever I don't finish is probably going to be Monday. So maybe, let's say theoretically, like, Saturday I do the treasures video. Monday I do the rares video. Now, I say this because it's also caused me to push back my schedule for next week. Now, I was planning on doing 2 videos. One was going to do a deep dive into the Cypher's the first one system. And I decided to scrap that video altogether in the sense that all of the information I was going to talk about within it, I'm just going to include in, like, a larger 9.2 guide. Because, I don't know, Cypher's the first one, in my opinion, is just not a very interesting system. And the reality is, a lot of the stuff that I have to say about it is, like, this is just not good and boring. You know, I should mention, I don't hate 9.2. I think it's not amazing. Like, it's definitely not WoW's saving grace, right? But it's not bad, at least in terms of, like, Zereth Mortis. Zereth Mortis isn't an amazing zone, but it's also nowhere near the level of Korthia, especially once you get used to it. I would say some people may be a little bit annoyed by it early on. I was as well. And then once you get the hang of, like, how to navigate Zereth Mortis, it's not too bad. It's just kind of tedious. So it's definitely a step in the right direction. I also just like the atmosphere a lot better. They finally added the Zereth Mortis music, and it's actually really good. I really like the music. It's not Final Fantasy levels, though, I should say. But, like, for WoW music, it's good. It's solid. And I would say that's better than we can really expect. So, overall, good patch, but I would say one of the things that I really, really don't like about this patch, and the main thing, in my opinion, holding it back, is Cypher's the first ones, and just Blizzard's insistence on making you grind, like, pointless world content to get an advantage in Raid. And see, I had a pretty nice debate with some people in my guild about this, like a little while ago on Discord, where some of them agreed with me, because I was saying that I think that the stuff where you need to farm, like, all this crap in Zereth Mortis to get, like, you know, double legendaries and whatnot, I was like, I think this is shit. And some people in my guild were saying, like, you know, what would you prefer, right? And they were like, oh, you know, World of Warcraft has always had this. Now, one thing is, I hate the appeal to, like, you know, something has always existed, so therefore it's okay. Like, if that's what we always said, then nothing would ever get changed, right? You know, I'm not going to give, like, the classic examples of, like, oh, you know, remember this institution that existed in the United States for many years, and people are like, well, we've always had it, blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, that's the thing, right? A lot of people are like, well, it's already been here forever. We might as well deal with it. I hate that argument. I do think it's been beaten to death, though. So, a lot of people said that, and I've had a lot of people, just in terms of YouTube and stuff, leave comments like that. Oh, they've always done this. Why are you complaining? I think that if something isn't good, it's never too late to complain about it. Like, there's not an expiration date on saying, this is bad, you should stop doing this. What the hell?
Before she fell into this state, she mentioned
Okay,
before.
different thing.
Do you know what that could mean?
And I will say, also, I think, I will say, though, in this case, it's different. Because, like, you could argue, there are lots of things, like, you know, in the world, right? Or even in games, or whatever, where it's like, oh, you know, this has always been bad, and just, okay, yeah, so skipping the cutscene broke something. I'm just gonna let it play then, because I don't know why it didn't work last time. But I would say World of Warcraft's emphasis on grinding and how that has evolved over the years, that is something which isn't necessarily, it hasn't necessarily always been bad, right? It's something which I think just doesn't match with the current reality of World of Warcraft. And I say this as somebody who has played Classic and enjoys that part of Classic. Okay, no, this quest is just inherently broken. There's a bunch of quests like this which just, for whatever reason, do not work. I had some of these on the practice runs. Usually if I abandon it and pick it up again, it works.
I wonder. Wait here. The core we found earlier.
Quest, now you may speak. It's not progressing.
How fascinating. What a peculiar atoma.
This should work. Maybe?
Oh, what is this? What is it looking at?
Okay, Fareem's actually following this time. Does this give me credit now? Yes. Okay, there we go.
This console.
Yeah, so a lot of times you reset it and it works. I don't know why, but it's happened to me on a few different quests. And it's inconsistent. Like last practice run, this didn't happen. Happened on a different quest.
Where are you going?
So we'll see. Where was I?
And it's gone. Perhaps inside. I
Oh yeah, I was on this quest last time where it bugged out.
Be safe.
So hopefully it doesn't happen again. But yeah, so something like, grinding and, being forced to do like tons of world content in order to get advantages in raids, I think is something that actually works fine in Classic WoW. Now, to a degree, I actually hate world buffs because I will say world buffs, I actually don't think are interesting at all. I've never been a fan of them, and it was one of the only things that really interested me about Season of Mastery initially. Obviously, I have since started playing Season of Mastery, finally. But that's more just because the reason that I didn't actually try Season of Mastery at first was because it's just too long, right? Leveling in Classic is a really, really big undertaking. I already did it once. I got to 60 on a warrior, and I was like, look, unless there's a significant experience buff, I'm not fucking bothering. And then the moment I heard they were increasing that buff up to 100%, I created a character and I started playing. It also helped that one of my friends talked me into it, but it was already something that I had been interested in, and I had actually talked before about how there's a chance I might play it. But the moment that I saw they're actually buffing the experience, that's what sold me on it. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll play it. If I can get a new Classic experience that's like, has more fun stuff in it, which I think the raids look really cool, then I'll try it. It's just leveling isn't the most fun thing in the world, and especially the time sink is something that I wouldn't want to do again. I did it once, wouldn't want to do it again to that degree. So 100% increase, definitely enough to make me say, yeah, sure, I'll try it a second time. But on that topic with world buffs, right, in Season of Mastery, was not a fan of that, and I'm glad they're gone, because I don't think that having to do like these fringe tasks to get like a one-time buff, especially that goes away on death, just so you can like speedrun the raid, really makes it interesting. Especially like the fact that you have to do it every single time. Obviously, if you clear the raid fast enough, you can carry it over into the second time, blah, 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 blah. But you get what I'm saying. I'm fine with something where it's like, you grind a reputation, you hit Exalted, and then you get like a permanent reward. But so in that case, I'm fine with that. But I would say even that has limits. In Classic WoW, I think it works fine, especially because a lot of Classic WoW is about getting you to go out into the world and see all the world content and stuff like that and engage with it. That was just part of the game back then. Raiding wasn't as big of an emphasis. The reality is World of Warcraft has changed. So a lot of people like to make the Classic comparison, and I'll always say that in Classic, I think it works, right? It doesn't work in the modern day. And having some sort of grind to get gear, like, because then, of course, my, some people in my guild, I will say, who were disagreeing with me, basically made like a straw man argument of like, oh, so you're saying that you just want to walk into raid and do the raid and everybody has equal gear. And I'm like, no, I didn't say that. And then a lot of them were like, oh, you just don't want to have to do the, the world content and stuff. Like, I mean, here I am testing it on the PTR, making a guide for it when, none of them have even tried it, right? So I'm the last person who somebody can say, I just don't want to do the content. I'll do it on the PTR to make sure that I can do it efficiently on live. To me, it's the thing that I hate about the grinding is the menial, repetitive tasks that you have to do every single day. So I'm fine with like having to do the campaign. I'm fine with having to do like a long unlock process or something like that. And especially if something's difficult, right? Like I'm fine with grinding Mythic Plus to get rewards or something like that. Because Mythic Plus, I mean, a lot of people say, oh, it's not super hard, maybe, but it's also not trivial. It does take at least some skill at the game to push higher Mythic Plus keys to get the best gear. Maybe not as much as like Mythic Raids or something, but it does require skill. So having to grind through Mythic Plus, even if it is a little bit tedious, oops, didn't mean to do that, it's still, there's a challenge there. There is absolutely nothing challenging about running laps around Korthia, waiting for rare mobs to respawn, and killing them to grind out reputation. There is nothing challenging about that. It is as tedious and boring as you can possibly get. And the main thing is, a lot of times, like I said, you're not even actively doing stuff, you are just waiting on a respawn. you're waiting on this rare to pop up so you can kill it, so you can get your reputation, so you can move on to the next one. It's not fun. That's the stuff that I dislike. And then having to farm that over and over for days on end, I fucking hate that. Like, if, I guess it doesn't really matter. Technically, you're gonna want to pick this, because it can discover additional hidden treasures, which, in theory, is gonna be good. But for the leveling purposes, the speedrun thing, doesn't matter. I'll put a Pokepot on Control R, I guess. Yeah, so point I'm making is I think if Blizzard gives you like a thing to grind, at least make it kind of interesting. And the reality is a lot of world content these days is not terribly interesting. And B, let me choose the time at which I approach it. So if I could, like, callings are a good example, right? Callings stack up over 3 days. I actually don't mind callings all that much, because what I do is every 3 days, I log on to all my alts, and I go through... Hello, Bolvar. Don't know why. Wasn't letting me pick it up. Okay, so do I need to complete patterns within patterns now? I'm honestly not sure. I think you need to complete the meta quest. So this meta quest is this is actually where I've stopped. No, actually I think it continues. There we go. Yeah, I always stop there. I was about to say, if I have to complete the meta quest, that's gonna really suck.
Your interference will cause far more harm than good.
You may speak. I will help you.
Alright, wait for the thing to pop up. Yeah, so Patterns Within Patterns is the new Shaping Fate. But the interesting thing about this is it's actually bi-weekly. So think of the timer on, like, Covenant Assaults in the Maw. That's the timer on Patterns Within Patterns, but it gives a reward similar to Shaping Fate, the Korthia Weekly. So I actually think that's nice. I do like that. I want to get rid of replenishing the reservoir, just so it doesn't take up space. But I'll keep Patterns Within Patterns up, just so you can see like how much, each activity gives as we progress through it. Where was I? Yeah, so I like being able to just go in and do all of my callings in one sitting. I think that's great. I actually really like that change. And I don't understand why they don't do more stuff like that, because I want more options in terms of how I approach a grind. And that's the thing about Classic WoW. It's not the case in every situation, but a lot of stuff in Classic, you grind it. So in Classic, a lot of times, if I wanted to finish a rep, I would just sit there, and sure, it takes a long fucking time for most of those reps, but I would just grind it out. Just sit there, put on some music or a Netflix show in the background, and just boom, burn through that shit. But in retail, you can't do that. You need to log in every single day and do the same exact menial tasks over and over and over to actually get it done. And that's just not fun. Honestly, it's just really, really boring. And the main issue is it doesn't let me schedule how I want to approach something, how I want to, plan out my time. So if I want to spend, 10 hours one day playing World of Warcraft and getting progress done on my reputation, I can't. I can only spend 2 hours, and then I have to come back the next day and spend 2 more hours, etc., etc., etc. And I kind of hate that, because a lot of times, it's hard to really shift between so many different things. So, a lot of times, if I want to spend one day doing one thing, I'll spend one day doing one thing. I don't want to spend one day doing some WoW, some other stuff, etc. Which just means that World of Warcraft ends up consuming much more of your time. And, the thing is, I'll be the first to admit that, yeah, I'm going to be the person who ends up doing that, right? I'm going to be the person who does log on for those 2 hours or more every single day to get that shit done. But I do think it's ultimately a bad move by Blizzard, because there's a lot of people who won't do that and will just say, fuck this game, and quit. I'd say I'm a lot more grind resilient than the average WoW player. And if even I hate it, and I like most of the people in my guild, I should say, one of the things that kind of frustrated me with their arguments is they all admitted, the ones that didn't, or that were like arguing against me, they all admitted that they didn't like it. But their argument was like, yeah, I don't like it, but that's just how WoW is. So it's like, well, if you don't like it, then shouldn't you want it to get better? Like, there's a difference between saying that's what you have to do. Like, I'm not sitting here and saying I shouldn't have to do this for Raid because I don't like it. No, I'm on here trying to make it easier for everybody else, like I already said. But in the process of trying to optimize it for other people, I can acknowledge that this is a bad system and that it should be fixed in the future. And I would say the all of this, by the way, goes back to the Ciphers the First One system. And the fact that it feels half-baked. I don't think Ciphers is a good system. It's not bad in the sense that it's, I guess it depends on what we're comparing it to, right? Like, it's not interesting. So, it doesn't really add anything to the game. But it doesn't, like, actively take anything away from the game. Like, if we're comparing it to Shards of Domination, I'd take Ciphers the First Ones every day of the week. But on its own, it's still, there's a lot that could be done better. Because the issue with Ciphers is it feels like it wants to be its own thing, but it ends up being forced to be this grinding enhancement tool. There's like stuff in there that improves the effectiveness of like Pokepok, this little like robot that follows you around, and like little fun things that you can interact with in the world, like, oh, you can find these Echo Jiro guys, and they give you, like, increased mount speed. Isn't that neat? Isn't that cute? Don't you want to spend your Ciphers the First Ones on that? But you can't, because in that same tree, there's something that says unlocks daily quests that you can do every single day to get legendary crafting materials. So, like, what the fuck? It's not really a choice at all. I missed the cycle. Oh well, I just have to sit here. And that's the issue I have with it. Like, there's an entire tree that is effectively worthless because the entire thing is about Pokepok here. And, you know, Pokepok, love him or hate him, contributes nothing. He's just a little guy that follows you around and, you know, makes little beep boop noises. He's like, you know, World of Warcraft's attempt at copying BB-8. And I have nothing against Pokepok, but if I have to pick between, you know, a talent that lets me give Pokepok a pirate hat, which literally a thing, there's stuff that, it's like a talent that lets you give costumes to Pokepok. And one of them is a pirate hat, another one's like, it's Dapper Pokepok, you give him like a top hat or something, which, like, it's cute, right? It's cute, it's silly, it's whatever. But picking between that and something which literally gives you, you know, access to new daily quests, which you need to get additional rep and additional legendary crafting materials, there's no choice there. So they say all this shit about, like, we, can I? Okay. I forget this quest exactly. Here we go. Speak with Elder Narav. Alright. But yeah, so the thing I hate about, like, a lot of these systems is, like, Ciphers could have been cool, right? It's not, but it has that potential. Like, I see what they could have done. I feel like they wanted it to be like this Timeless Isle type thing where there's all these, like, little things throughout the world that you can interact with and, like, oh, it's so neat and it makes the world feel more alive. But at the end of the day, you can't pick any of that because it's right next to it. I'll show you when we get back to it. But when you actually see what some of the stuff is offering, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's a non-choice. So I don't understand how Blizzard can continually do this, like, over and over, and just not get it. Because we have the same conversation with, like, Covenants, right? You know, it's the same exact argument of, like, oh, Covenants offer meaningful choice to the player. You know, you pick your Covenant and you pick the one that you want to play, and then you get like all these cool goodies based on raid. And what was it that Ian Hasacosta said? It was like, we want people to identify as like a Kyrian, like brewmaster or whatever. And obviously that fell flat on its face, and everybody called it out from beta, myself included. I mean, fuck, I made the Covenant spreadsheet. I'd like to think that I was one of the... okay, yeah, I'm making the choice. One of the rare mobs is up. We are taking a detour because I'm not gonna wait. Oh, this is actually incorrect. The information I got was wrong. This rare is supposed to spawn down here according to Wowhead. Huh. Apparently it has multiple spawn points. Who would have guessed? That's actually new information that I can bring to the table. Well, that's good news. Yeah, so this guy I have not been able to find. I have to wonder now, though, if the reason that I haven't been able to find him is because the information on Wowhead was incorrect. So maybe I wasn't checking the right spots. Ethos I already have. Alright. Well, this is good, though. Got a Rixol footage. So we're one step closer to getting the rare mob video completed. We're not done yet, but one of the 5 or so rares that I'm missing was this guy here, so awesome. Now, where was I? Right, so the same thing that happened with Covenants, where Blizzard expected people to identify with them, and then universally, and there's data to show this, by the way, like, in case you happen to miss all that stuff, and, like, you didn't, you know, see the, outcome of the Covenants, basically, the data showed that everybody, almost everybody, like, picked the Covenant that was best for them. Or, worst case scenario, they went with the Covenant that was close, that, you know, was close in damage, but like that they preferred. But I would say if you basically put a side-by-side comparison of what Covenants people picked and how they stacked up in terms of damage, it follows the exact same pattern. The ones that do the most damage or do the most healing or whatever, or like the recommended picks for tanks, those are the ones that got the most picks. There are some rare exceptions, but usually those are in the cases of like Blood DK, where Blood DK can literally go with any Covenant, and all of them are viable. I think Blood DK is possibly one of the only specs in the game that has a viable Covenant, or all viable Covenants. And by that I mean it's not just like one of them, or they're all close. Every single one of them has like a niche. Like for Blood, Kyrian is best for single target. Necrolord is best for utility. Night Fae is definitely the most fringe out of all of them, but some people would argue that Night Fae has the best DPS on a single target low movement fight where you can reliably get high uptime. Generally speaking, it's like, it's a very specific set of conditions that need to be met, and like almost nobody plays it because it's so hard to run. But if you look on Warcraft logs, you'll see some Night Fae Blood DKs actually putting out good numbers because they're able to do that. That said, it's like, you know, it gives basically the same damage as Kyrian with infinitely more effort, and it also doesn't give you File of Serenity, so it's kind of like, you know, there's not much of a reason to run it, so it's definitely the weakest out of all of them. And then Venthyr is really good at AoE. It's like, Necrolord's good at AoE, and it's good mostly because of the utility, but if you're just going for AoE damage, Venthyr's really, really good at that. So, lots of balance there, but that's just not the case for a lot of other classes. Most of them are pigeonholed into 1 or 2 Covenants. And if anything, you just swap between AoE or single target. And the reality is, you know, whether or not you really want, you know, people to pick something based on, you know, appearances or whatnot, when the main focus of your game is raiding and progressing through this difficult content, people are going to pick the option which gives them the most damage. This is the rare I was talking about earlier, by the way, where there's supposed to be a portal here, and the bird's supposed to attack the portal. It just sits there, and then it despawns after a while. So I figured I'd take a quick detour to show. Yeah, so World of Warcraft at this stage is effectively a game based around high-level endgame content. So, you know, raiding definitely is the most popular, like it or not. I like raiding, but some people will be like, you know, I want the game to be entirely based around Mythic Plus or PvP. And I should say that from a standpoint of I wish that everybody could have what they want. Like, I wish that you could play Mythic Plus as, like, the only endgame. Blizzard just doesn't see it like that, right? Blizzard designs the game around rating being the end-all, be-all. They're starting to go away from that a little bit. Some of the more recent changes have been, you know, nudging in the direction of, you know, we want people to be able to choose what they prefer, that kind of thing, which is good. Definitely more change is better there. But a lot of people basically say that, you know, I should be able to do whatever I want in the game, and I agree, but that's just not how it is. So it's one of those things where I can say that I wish, I could say I wish people would be able to play however they want, but like in the argument I used before, when it comes down to realism of what are you actually going to do, the reality is there's only one thing you can do, and that is, you know, do what's optimal. So I wish that Blizzard would make more choices that... so I need to kill the Cultivator and free Pilgrims. All right. Yeah, I wish Blizzard would make choices that benefited all players in the raid, not just, or all players in the game, not just raiders. But I acknowledge the fact that the way the game is currently designed favors raiders, right? But the problem is, at the same time, Blizzard does stuff like this, like adding systems which they say will hope will make players pick the thing that they like or whatever, and then they make it so one of the options is just universally better from a rating standpoint. So if you're gonna design the game one way, then you can't also design the game in a way where there's one option that's better for raids and the others are just, you know, useless and everything else. I don't know. You get what I'm saying. I'm a little bit tired. Not doing a great job of getting my point across, but hopefully you understand my point, which is I wish that Ciphers, the first ones, could be like a fun system that I can engage with. But the reality is, my guide for Ciphers is going to ignore 90% of it. When I make my guide for Ciphers, the first ones, I'm going to tell you, research this, then research this, then research this. And then ignore the rest of it because it doesn't fucking matter. And I kind of have to do that because, like, they force me to. Like, I mean, the reality is, if Ciphers wasn't, like, a rating-focused system, I just wouldn't cover it at all. Like, if it was just a world content thing, there's plenty of people out there who are, like, really into world content, and in this game, I'm just not. Like, I wouldn't say I hate world content, because I love world content in Guild Wars 2. It's, like, the only thing I do in that game, basically. So, world content can be really fun, but in this game, I just don't enjoy it. So, it's just not my focus. So, there's a lot of world content stuff in Ciphers, but I'm going to be honest, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm going to tell you the best options to get from Ciphers, the first ones, if you're just looking to optimize your progression through 9.2. And then if you want to, you know, deviate from my recommendations and pick something that lets you give Pokapaka Top Hat, like, by all means, go ahead. But there's no point in me, like, telling you what each one does when it's like, you know, some of them give you advantages, some of them let you put top hats on robots. Like, you know, hell, I wish I could go ahead and put a top hat on my robot too, but I can't. So, it's pointless talking about what ifs, you know? I should mention I already finished Chapter 3. I forget when Chapter 3 ends. We're already on Chapter 4, so we're already past the point where all the alt skips happen. So, at this point, this is stuff that you'll have to do, presumably, on every character, if you're actually doing the campaign on all of them. The last few things fell into that category. I think ever since we got the meta quest, I think that's where it ends. But I forget exactly. But I think, like, you know, everybody, you probably get what I'm saying. I tend to over-explain stuff. But, like, you get it, right? And obviously, nobody can answer and say yes. Or maybe you don't. Maybe I need to explain it more. I don't know. Like, I wish they would design more systems that, like, I could actually have fun with instead of trying to optimize. I don't know, it's tricky. And one of the other things is, I think, I've talked about, like, how much I like Total War Warhammer 3 before. And, I like Total War Warhammer as a series. The third game is still coming out. Technically, I haven't played it. But, I'm really excited for it. I love Total War Warhammer 2. And the third game is just a sequel to that. So I'm sure it's going to be as good. Everything I've seen says it's going to be as good. Point I'm trying to make is, in Total War Warhammer 3, I've actually seen arguments that in many ways parallel the stuff that I've seen in World of Warcraft. But it's a very different context, because in Total War Warhammer, there's a meta, like with any game, really. And currently, the meta in the game, to simplify it a little bit, it's a strategy game, and you can like build different units and stuff like that. And the optimal strategy for most factions is to spam ranged units, like archers and stuff like that. And, you know, for a variety of reasons that would take me way too long to explain if you don't understand the game already, basically, a lot of people, especially people who play in the higher difficulties, go with archer spam armies. And archer spam armies work really well. And personally, I like playing on the higher difficulties, so because I want to be optimal, I go with archer spam armies. And personally, to me, like, I enjoy this, right? Like, I love playing on the hardest difficulty of that game. I play on legendary difficulty. And making, like, the perfect, like, archer stack and just destroying enemy armies with, like, a really optimized army, or, like, I theory crafted all the different, like, you know, modifiers that I can get and made it, like, as perfect as possible. That's the shit that I love doing. So to me, that is genuinely fun. But I see a lot of comments, like a lot of like the bigger streamers for Total Warhammer 2. I haven't streamed the game at all, so I'm not even referring to myself at all. But I watch a lot of streamers who play that game, and a lot of people will like comment on their videos or say like in live stream chats and stuff like that. Stuff like, you know, people like you are ruining the game because all you do is play like archer spam metas, and it makes the game unfun and stuff like that. And first off, I will say blaming the player in any situation is bad. So it always pisses me off when somebody says, you know, you are ruining the game because you play the game like this. That's incorrect, just inherently. Because I've had people tell me the same thing with, like, my leveling. I've genuinely had people tell me that I'm ruining the game because I'm trying to optimize leveling, because leveling is something that you're supposed to enjoy, right? And is it my fault that Blizzard designed leveling the way that they did? No. Personally, I have no problem with leveling, right? But let's say that you have an issue with the way that leveling's designed, and you have an issue with the fact that I'm able to level as efficiently as I am, or something like that. Then it's not my fault for looking at a system and trying to find the most optimal path through that system. It's Blizzard's fault for designing the system in that way, that I was able to find that optimal path. So same thing with like these Total War Warhammer 2 streamers, right? They're just basically looking at the game, saying, this is the most optimal strategy, this is what I'm going to do. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You know, they're just playing the game the way that it's optimal to play it. And some people say that's not the way it's meant to be played, and that's fine. You know, that's their opinion. But, you know, if something's effective and you want to be efficient, then that's what you're going to do. And the reason that this confuses me, I would say, in the context of Total War Warhammer 2, is in that game, it makes even less sense for two reasons. One, it's a single-player game, for the most part. There is a multiplayer mode, but I would say multiplayer in that game is vastly less popular than single-player. The most popular multiplayer modes are like co-op campaigns, which is basically like a co-op single-player campaign, kind of. So they're making changes to multiplayer. Maybe it'll be better. I don't know. Personally, I'm not a fan of multiplayer, but that's just me. So I play the single-player mode, and I do all this stuff in the single-player mode because I genuinely enjoy it. But if other people want to play the single-player mode their own way, who's stopping them? If you're the only player in the game, who's to tell you that you have to optimize? You know, if you want to play with an extremely, like, inefficient setup or whatever, you are the only person in there. It's a single-player game. Just do that. So going to, like, a streamer and saying, oh, I hate that you do this, it ruins the game, is just baffling. But not only that, because it's a single-player game, there's a difficulty slider, right? So I like to play on legendary difficulty, and generally speaking, the streamers who do these archer spam strats, among other things, play on legendary difficulty. And they do that because on legendary, the way that the game is set up, which, like I said, would take me way too long to explain, it encourages you to build armies like that. And if you like legendary, the entire idea of legendary is, in my opinion, trying to find creative solutions around the modifiers that the, AI gets. So if the most effective method is spamming archers, well, that's the point. You're trying to find a really effective, fun method to basically beat a cheating AI. That's the fun part of it. If you want to play a balanced game mode, you can do that. It exists in that game. There's a setting for easy difficulty, right? And I think it's interesting that people basically say that they want to play on legendary difficulty, but they can't because it's not fun. Because the only strategies for legendary difficulty are doing these cheese strats. And they're like, oh, I dislike this game because on the easy difficulties, it's too easy. But on the hard difficulties, it's just not fun. And it's, like, really weird to me because, like, I've always viewed it as, like, if you just want to fuck around and do whatever you want, like, yeah, easy difficulties are there for that. It's like the equivalent of LFR in, World of Warcraft. And then, if you want to optimize and, really be efficient and stuff, that's what, like, the hard mode difficulties are. That's what mythic raids are for. That's what legendary difficulty in Total War Warhammer 2 is for. That's why it exists. But then, what I find interesting about this is that even though the difficulties there exist for different people, they still complain. And in World of Warcraft, I kind of get that. Because in World of Warcraft, I will say, there is a certain, like, I guess, status of the best stuff is reserved for, like, the best quote-unquote players. I'm not saying that, like, you are better than another person if you play in the harder difficulty, but in the eyes of the game, you are, right? The best gear goes to the Mythic Raiders. The best, I guess mounts or something. It depends on your opinion. Personally, I don't really give a shit about mounts and stuff, but a lot of people really dislike how the coolest mounts go to the Mythic Raiders or something like that. I can kind of get that, right? Like, let's say you're playing World of Warcraft for mount collecting, then I could see how maybe it really grinds your gears if, for whatever reason, you feel like you're only able to get the really cool mounts if you were to do something that you don't enjoy. But what I also find interesting is then you have... I think he picks me up here, right? Or no, I have to click on him. Like, you have in a game like Total War Warhammer 2, where there is literally zero advantage to playing in legendary difficulty, aside from having fun. Like, I get nothing out of it, right? And you still have people complaining because they're like, well, I should be able to play on legendary, but it's not fun, so I don't want to do it. And that, like, it's an interesting thing to think about. Because the way that I see it is, honestly, I think that there's a lot of people that want to feel like they've done some difficult achievement, but they don't really want to put in the work for that difficult achievement. So, like, where do I translocator key? Oh, I remember this quest. Okay. This one I actually need to focus on if I want to do it efficiently. Okay, so I press this. No, wait. What are you... Okay, let's be in. There we go. Okay, and then one's going to pop up. It's the N. N is over here. Then, what's next? The fuck is that symbol? It's over here, though. Alright. Same one, I think. Alright.
There, I see it. Well done.
And...
There, another. That was right. Symbol.
Same one over and over.
Keep it up.
Alright. There we go. And then I have to... Okay, cool.
Your future endeavors.
Return to the Overlook. All right. Yeah, so point being, if you think about it, right? For a game like Total War Warhammer 3, there is literally zero difference between beating the game on easy or legendary, except for the achievement that you get on Steam, right? If you beat it on legendary, you get an achievement in your Steam profile that says, you beat the campaign on legendary. I have those achievements. Like I said, I completed every single achievement in the game. But I didn't cheat to get the achievements because, to me, what I'm going for isn't the achievement, right? Like, I don't care about having that little badge in my Steam profile. I care, it's like, it's nice to have it to show that I did it, but I care about it more in the sense that I did it, right? Like, that badge is more of just a reminder to me of, being able to complete that difficult campaign. I can look at it and go, yeah, that was fun. That was a fun challenge. But, like, imagine if I just, like, and people do this, by the way, downloaded a mod that basically removed all of the buffs that the AI gets on the hardest difficulty, still set it to the hardest difficulty, so it was effectively easy mode, then beat it. The game doesn't know the difference, so it gives them the legendary achievement, and then they're like, haha, I beat legendary difficulty. It's like, but why? Like, what's the point at that point? It's like you're flexing for something that you didn't do. So other than like some, imaginary like perceived social status that you would get from it, I don't get it. Because like I play on the harder difficulties because when I'm like in that really difficult battle, when I win that, it feels awesome. It feels rewarding, and I'm like, oh yeah, that was epic. Like that was a really fun battle. And then, I just don't get that same feeling off like easy difficulty or something. Okay, now I have to hearth back to Haven. So this is where you unlock Sepulchre, the first ones. You can take my word for it. Raid's over there. The teleporter brings you there. And then we go back here. Bolvar gives us the next quest. Here, Anduin's Tale. So, presumably, right, this is where it's a bit confusing. Because, apparently, yeah, you're gonna unlock flying after Chapter 5, which is this chapter that we're on right now. So, I guess this means that until you finish Heroic Week 1, you won't be able to get flying, I think. Logically speaking, that's what it means, because you won't be able to rescue Anduin until after completing the raid. So I assume in between the chapter I just finished and this one, you're going to have to enter Sepulchre, the first ones. Normally. Oh, there we go. But yeah, and that was like a bit of a tangent, but I do just think it's weird that there's that mentality. And it is a little bit different in World of Warcraft, I will admit. But I do think it's telling that even in games like Total War Warhammer 2, where there isn't a World of Warcraft advantage of, oh, you get the best mounts by doing the hardest raids, people still want to feel like they got a reward for doing something that they didn't actually accomplish. And I think, excuses like, people like you ruin the game because you find this optimal strategy that I can't do or that I don't like, and therefore, it doesn't make me want to achieve it, but I still feel like I deserve the achievement, that kind of thing. I'll stop rambling because I'm probably getting a bit too hard to understand at this point. When I'm trying to focus on like two things at once, it becomes a little bit harder for me to like actually explain what the hell I'm talking about. So I'm probably getting a bit too rambly.
The helm, champion. You have the best chance of using it yourself.
Alright. We have to beat up Darien. I can pop all cooldowns here, probably. In this case, I should probably like potion too, because why not? And all right. Yeah, so this quest, it's like you have to travel quite a long distance. I remember the first time I did this, it bugged out, so hopefully it doesn't do that again. Oh, I should also note, one thing about patch 9.1, which it looks like they just scrapped, is the whole learning the Atoma language. Unless that's just not implemented yet, but like I doubt it because everything else about the patch feels really close to completion, and that's just not present. It looks like they just scrapped that feature entirely, which ironically was one of the only things about the patch that looked really unique and really interesting. So I can't say I'm terribly surprised that they scrapped it. It's weird though, because like the reason I say this is when I first got here on the PTR, I figured this was when it was going to teach it to me, right? This is when it's going to tell me how to do the Automa language, because it looks like the room that we're going to enter was the hub for that. And then it just isn't. So I don't know if they've said what the hell happened with that, but like, in case you don't know what I'm talking about, go look at the tested on, oh yeah, the chickens. Go look at the like release thing for patch 9.2. There was this whole section about how like we're going into some foreign world and the Automa are like these robot creatures that we don't know how to talk to, and we're going to need to learn their language by slowly over time collecting syllables or whatever and piecing together the language one phrase at a time, and we'll learn to interact with them. So I know that they didn't completely scrap that idea in terms of like the story components. There very much is this idea throughout the story of we can't talk to the Automa, but we need to learn to talk to them. But like 99% of it is done through the quests. Like just over time we learned how to talk to them. Well, it's like, oh, you interact with this panel, and then it's like, now talk to the Automa to complete the quest. So I don't know what happened there, but they showed like some UI elements and stuff for like the system they were planning to add. I think it was supposed to be some part of the Cypher's the First One system. But now in the Cypher system, it's literally just you research a talent where it's like, in 2 days, you'll be able to talk to Automa. Cool. So it's kind of a letdown, I guess. Like, I don't really care that much, but it was one of those things where it was one of the things about the patch that looked a little bit cooler. And it's a bit of a shame that it just got scrapped. I haven't seen any information about it, so I don't know. Maybe it's still there, and maybe I just haven't found it, but at this point, I think I've, like, seen everything. I've completed the campaign. I've done most of the Cypher system. Just doesn't seem to be there anymore. Because, you have stuff like this, so this is why.
Right in front of you. I think this adaptation may be what you seek.
So, yeah, like, we have to memorize the phrase and stuff like that.
Test this theory
But
there.
there's no actual system like the one they showed. It's just, it's part of the storyline of memorizing phrases and whatever, and you'll see when we get in there. There's also, like, some treasures across the world where you have to, like, find Automa symbols and then, like, interact with an object to, like, make the right phrase or something like that. But it's like a one-off treasure that gives you, like, a toy or something, not something that's an actual system like the one they showed. So this is what I'm talking about, right?
It is a particular. Infuse the librarian with the phrases you have obtained.
This place looks like it should be like a language repository. But it's just a subzone. Nothing special. There's also a treasure here. I think I just wait. Yeah. And then he attacks me. And boop, boop, boop.
As you can see, the more advanced the language, the more resistant the creature.
Okay, so here, because my Hearthstone's not up, I'm gonna use the wormhole generator to go back to Oribos, and then take the portal within Oribos to just pop back over. It's faster than running all the way back. Okay, what else can I talk about? I forget where I left off. Oh yeah, because I was talking about the Cyphers video and how I scrapped that. All of that to say, with the whole Cyphers thing, that's a long tangent, right? With the Cyphers system, what I've decided to do is just, because I don't have enough to say about the system as a whole, and I'm just going to give a quick walkthrough of what the optimal way to progress through it is. I've decided to just basically make it a subsection of my overall 9.2 guide, which I am going to make. I'm going to make like a big guide for 9.2. Don't know what I'll call it yet. And one of the reasons why I want to get like the rare mob and treasure stuff done first is because, like, if you think about my leveling guide, right? The leveling guide had the written component, which I might make a written version for this. Haven't 100% decided. But it had the written component, which had some extra details. Then for the dungeon quests, because that was an important part, I made like a 5-minute video about the dungeon quests. And then during my video, or my leveling guide, I was able to say, I have like a companion video on this. I also did a walkthrough on every single bonus objective, because that was a really important part of the leveling guide. And that was a companion video. So the way that I like to think about these guides is I want the actual guide itself to be like concise. It should contain like all of the raw information and maybe some visualizations of like short, easy to explain things. But if there's something really, really, really long that I have to show, or there's like a ton of information, like every single rare mob location, that's the kind of thing where I can explain in the guide itself. Rare mobs are important because X. They give these rewards. You'll want to make sure that you farm, X amount of rare mobs, ideally, as like all of them, every single day. And if you want to know details on how to get every single rare mob, I have an additional video up that covers those topics. I want to say the same thing about treasures, right? So by the time I make that guide, I want to have those companion videos done. Alt Catch-Up covers things such as, the crafted gear. So when I talk about the crafted gear, I can say, you want more information about this? I did a way too in-detail walkthrough in my video about Alt Catch-Up. Then if somebody cares about that section, they can go and watch that video. But if they don't care about that, then they're just like, huh, neat, there's new crafted gear. And they keep watching until the rest of the video to get to what they actually do care about. So the main guide should give like a simplified breakdown of everything that you need to know. And then I wanted to link to exterior resources, ideally ones that I've created so that I can like actually, determine, whether it's correct or not. Like worst case scenario, in some cases, like, for my original leveling guide, for instance, I didn't have time, nor was I experienced enough at the time to make a complete guide to every rare mob and like the zones that I was doing. So in my video description, I linked to a external website that I had found, which cataloged every single one of the rares used in my speedrunning route. So, like, ideally, I would like the formatting and stuff to be more up to my standards, right? So that's why I like to make it myself. So for guides going forward, I've tried to make my own little companion pieces instead of just linking to, like, other external sources, etc. But, for this, I have time. I'm going to try to make as many relevant guides as possible. Another good one is the legendary stuff. I think there's enough information about legendary crafting that some people won't give a shit, right? Some people are just going to be like, who fucking cares? In fact, like, I was actually talking to people in my guild about this. I was basically telling them about all the research I was doing. And, like, one of them was just like, yeah, I don't give a shit. I'm just going to buy a token. Who fucking cares? So I've been trying to basically, like, I've been researching how to make, like, all the legendaries, and I've been trying to coordinate it with people on my raid team in terms of legendary crafting, because, I'll give you a heads up here. Legendaries are going to be fucking expensive. And that's partially because of the rarity of the crafted materials, just like Korthite crystals, but I can't say for sure, but I think it's going to be even more rare. So, like, I've spent a lot of time in the PTR, right? I would say I'm probably in the top 1% of time spent in the PTR, easily. A lot of people, like, hop on the PTR and just play around for, like, a few minutes, or maybe in a few hours, and don't really do much. I've spent a fucking truckload of time here. So, really, it's just, like, the people who really, like, are grinding out videos and stuff like that. They're the ones spending lots of time on the PTR. What does this do? I actually never tried it. Oh, it weakens them. Makes it faster. I never used this extraction one. Probably should have. They're not too hard to beat either way, though. But yeah, so in all the time that I've spent on the PTR, and mind you, a lot of it has been killing rares. I already have enough sandworm chest keys. Cool. Yeah, so a lot of that time has been spent killing rares and looting chests, which is the main way that you get the legendary crafting reagent. And I only have 2. Now, 2, as it so happens, is all you actually need to craft the new legendary. So it's like, you don't need as many Korthite, or you don't need as many of that. It's like progenitor essence, or whatever it's called. Compared to Korthite crystals, you need like a bunch more. But relative to the amount of time it takes to actually get them, I think it's going to be more rare. Because I've spent a lot of time, and I still only have enough to craft 1 291 legendary. So, hard to say. There's also, there were a few, like, guaranteed sources of Korthite crystals. So, the thing about, like, Korthite is you needed a bunch, but because there were guaranteed drops, there was a way to, like, mitigate the RNG if you had enough alts. So if you had an alt army and you just grinded that shit out, you could get enough to get a legendary. And then, you know, you would probably see some drops. But with this, there's no guaranteed ways to obtain this currency. It's rare. So you either get a rare drop in the zone, or off a rare, or whatever, or you just don't get it. So that should make it so it's a bit more expensive. And the other thing is, I briefly mentioned this in my alt catch-up guide, everybody's going to need to craft 2 legendaries. And when I said this to people in my guild, some of them were like, yeah, we already have to craft 2 legendaries. Like, okay, whatever. There's some people have been crafting 2 legendaries, but a lot of them say, oh, well, we've had an AoE legendary and a single target legendary. In that case, now you need to craft 3, right? You need to craft your AoE legendary, your single target legendary, and you need to craft the Covenant legendary. So, regardless of what you were using before, every single person now will need to craft, at the very least, 1 additional legendary. So everybody will need 2, some people will need more than 2, but it's still a higher baseline than a lot of specs. There were many specs before that only needed 1 legendary, now you need 2. So that alone is going to drive the price up, because God knows it was expensive enough to craft 1 262, and usually I had to save up a lot of calling gold to actually buy one. Now, 1 character getting into raid will need 2. Now, it's a little bit iffy, though, because, like, for instance, you get the what's it called? The cat thing of unity? Whatever it is. Oh, yeah, this thing.
I can bear them to Bastion, Father.
In Bastion. Right. Oh, I forgot that was a thing. Now, this is a bit weird, because, so think about it this way. I used my... yeah, because I used my, my wormhole generator to get back to Oribos, but that was the end of Chapter 4. And this is midway through Chapter 5. And Chapter 4 is going to unlock the week of Heroic releasing. And Chapter 5 will unlock 1 week after that. Right? Oh, no, I'm confusing the dates a little bit. You get what I'm saying, though, right? They're going to be spread apart by 2 weeks. So in theory, I would be able to just use my wormhole generator there. And it would save time. Or I would just use my Hearthstone, because I don't think I did. Well, point being, doing it all in one sitting messes up the timings a little bit, but, you know, it's fine. I wonder if there would be, like, a way to handle this. I guess the way that I would handle this is, if I had thought about this and planned ahead, I would have used my dollar on Hearthstone the last time, because I would have used it to head over to Oribos and then talk to the Primus, where I used the wormhole generator before. And then here, I would have used the wormhole generator to go directly to Bastion, because it would have gotten me much closer. In the end, it only loses me about, like, 2 minutes, which isn't a huge deal, but, you know, it's a time save. Admittedly, time saves here aren't as important. Time saves in the first 3 chapters are where it really matters, because the first 3 chapters are going to be what you have at release. And that's going to be the stuff that you're going to have to run on every single alt, presumably, if you're wanting to stay efficient. And you're going to want to get it done really quickly, because you're going to want to make sure that you're getting world quests unlocked as soon as possible. World quests do not unlock until the end of Chapter 3. So that's going to be very, very important. Time saves for these chapters are not crucial, because they're just going to unlock on like a weekly reset. And then here I can fly, because you already have flying in the Shadowlands. What was I saying though? Words. Oh yeah, so 291 legendaries are going to be expensive, and I think there's a lot to discuss there. I've already discussed a decent bit here, right? But that's the kind of thing where, like I said, some people just won't care. Some people are literally sitting on mountains of gold and just do not care about that part, and they're just like, yada, 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 skip past this. So I do think it's important to put that in a separate video. So I could basically say, this is going to be an important part of 2.9. Activate the first shard, all right. Yeah, this is going to be an important... Did I say 2.9? It's going to be an important part of 9.2. And everybody's going to have to get their 2 legendaries. That's really important, right? And then I can say, if you want to learn more about how to craft your own legendary, or roughly how expensive it might cost if you're watching this before the launch of the patch, then check out this video. But if you don't care, then skip to the next section. That kind of thing. But something like the Ciphers of the First One system, A, I don't have a ton to say about it, like I said. But B, it's important for everybody. I don't think anybody's just going to be able to say, oh, I don't care about this, like skip to the next section. It's not the type of thing that you can really ignore. Because if you are ignoring it, you are inherently playing inefficiently. So, like I said, obviously some people are just going to say, I want to put, you know, a top hat on my Pokepock. And sure, but there is a very clear way on how to efficiently progress through the Ciphers of the First One system. It's not entirely obvious if you're not familiar with how it works.
Yes.
And alright, here we go. Click the shut again. Yeah, and I think that someone not having access to that information would be doing themselves a disservice. Now, that said, if it was something really, really complicated, like, I think the same thing about rare mobs, right? I think efficiently farming rare mobs for anybody looking to be viable for raids is going to be an important part of 9.2. But because, like I said, there's so much to cover there, Jesus, there's lots of teleporting back and forth. Can't believe I actually have to pop a Garrison Hearthstone. Oh, shit. Yeah. Could wait like 1 minute to get the wormhole generator, but at the same time, that's 1 minute that I may be able to shave off just by, you know, taking portal hops. And you never know if I'm going to need that wormhole generator in like 5 minutes. At least I don't know at this moment in time. If you watch this and I don't end up needing it, then maybe just use wormhole generator there. I don't know, but we'll see. Can I summon Pokepock here? No, you need to be in Zereth Mortis. But yeah, because Ciphers is something which is crucially important and not very, like, difficult to discuss, like it's a pretty short topic, I would say that combination makes it something which I think I can just make entirely, you know, in the subsection of my guide, and it doesn't need to be its own video. Like, when I was thinking about it, like, I generally try to estimate, like, how long a video is going to be, and if something is, like, longer than 10 minutes, then it's something I probably want to make its own video. Or if it's, like, if it's longer than 10 minutes, sometimes I'll try to make it its own video, but bundle it in with something else. Like, I could have done a deep dive on crafted gear for instance. Wait, where am I? Runecarver's Oblique. Right. I need to go to the Maw, not Seraph Mortis. What am I doing? So, yeah, I could have, in theory, just made 2 videos out of the alt catch-up one. I could have done just a generic video on different alt catch-up mechanisms, and then one really big video covering the crafted gear. Because if you watch that video, you probably remember the crafted gear took up, like, I would say easily half of that video's runtime. But I had, like, these two topics that were both similar in terms of content. And they were both fairly long on their own. So instead of making them subsections of a larger guide, and instead of making them each their standalone video, I combined what would be 2 slightly long but not super long videos into one decently long video. Ran like 18 minutes, which I think is good enough for one of those. And then especially if it's something like rare mobs, which the rare mob video will probably be like 30 minutes. That's my estimation at the moment. Same with the treasures one. Just because of how long it takes to walk through every single one of those. Alright. This one I need to focus on just because it's annoying. It's like that first quest in Shadowlands all over again. But you can position yourself in a way that lets you interact with it immediately instead of having to drag it. But it's tricky, the positioning.
Will a Lich King reign in Ice Crown?
Right. And then I have to use this. Alright. So yeah, that's my methodology for that type of stuff. All of that to say, the Ciphers video is bundled into a future one. And the Legendaries one at some point will still get made. So, here's the deal. I might have enough time to make it for next week. I also just might not. If I end up spending a ton of time focusing on the rare mobs and the treasures, I may not have time, and those are inherently my focus. This is, by the way, how you get the legendary upgrade thing. So where is it? Yeah, this thing, Tome of the Eternal. This lets you upgrade the legendary, and it requires honored reputation. So you don't need to just finish chapter 5. We can now fly, by the way. So you can't just finish chapter 5. You also need to get enlightened up to honored. I think you can also buy it off the quartermaster, but one thing I don't know is whether or not the quartermaster will actually sell it to you if you haven't finished that chapter, and I can't check that, right? Because even on alts, like the legendary upgrade token in 9.1, if you recall, even on alts, it was already there for sale. So on my alts, because I've already completed the campaign on one character, I can already buy it on my alt. But like maybe, let's say on my first playthrough, I never checked, so I don't know. It also wasn't on the PTR when I first completed the campaign, because it was a really early thing. Maybe you actually need to unlock this for the first time by doing the campaign. I don't know. If so, that would mean that you wouldn't actually be able to craft a 291 legendary bare minimum until you finish that quest, not accounting for anything else. But as it stands, I'll show the vendor so we can see when I get back to Oribos, or Zereth Mortis. And then here, this is... I have to return to Zereth Mortis to pick it up. And now I can fly! Woo! Fun. Okay, the reason, once again, by the way, that I'm flying is because the questline for Zereth Mortis requires you to complete a means to an end, which, it's not. Actually, wait, I can't fly. Shit. When did they change that? Previously, it was after you complete Chapter 5. Now it's after you complete Chapter 6? That's a change. Wait, they changed that. Ooh. I'll let the timer run, yeah, I'll let the timer run out a little bit while I talk to the vendor, because technically speaking, I cheated a little bit. But that's because they changed it. Like, if you check Wowhead, it definitely says on there, Chapter 5. Yeah, so the legendary power requires Revered. Requires completion of the quest Souls Entwined. Interesting. So there's also a quest requirement. What's the quest Souls Entwined? I don't know what that is. Huh. Okay. And then this stuff only requires Honored, no other unlock thing. Same with the contract. Same with the Augment Rune, just requires Exalted. This obviously still has the insane requirements of Cutting Edge, Keystone Hero, or Glad, which is fucking bonkers, by the way. And then it's not selling it on the vendor. So, interesting. The legendary thing. Weird. Alright, so now... Yeah, Pelagos offers the next quest. Alright. So now I have to go talk to Fareem. When we get there, I'll also show the ciphers panel so I can demonstrate what I was talking about earlier. But yeah, so basically, what I was trying to say before, though, is I have... I've already made it very clear that I'm planning on just deep diving fully into Total War Warhammer 3 when it drops on Thursday. I won't be uploading a video on Thursday. I might be uploading a video on Friday. But if I do, it'll be a Total War Warhammer 3 video. If I upload nothing, I upload nothing. But it's going to be either a video on that game or nothing else. Because that's what I'll be playing. And... Alright. Oh yeah, and then you have to... There's so many things to interact with in here. It's, like, confusing. Alright. I'm gonna click on this, and then I'm gonna go check out the ciphers. Oh yeah, then Pokapok gets possessed. I remember this. Okay, so let's look at the cipher system. First off, I might as well research that and research that. And this says 1 second. Right. So these things are instant, but this one requires 3 days. This one requires 5 days, 18 hours. This one's instant, and then this one requires only 5 seconds. But there are a few, like, it's mostly this thing here, and, whatchamacallit, this thing here. But, yeah, I would say Soprania Understanding is the really, like, annoying one. But because, like, this is, let's see. Yeah. These are all 1 second. I will say it didn't used to be 1 second, so that's good. Now, for some reason, I don't know why this is still the case, but it looks like randomly Sopranian and Tremblem Understanding are the only ones that have really long research times, which is stupid. If they're removing it from some of these other ones, why is this still a thing? 5 days is just fucking ludicrous. So, as you might imagine, you're going to need to invest a ton of time into researching this, right? And you're going to want to get that started as soon as possible. So this is also not an insignificant cost, 220 ciphers. So the first thing you need to research is Metrial Understanding. Then you really, really, really need to get Kashiel Understanding. It unlocks, I'm not sure if it's popped up on my map. Yeah, it just unlocked a new world quest for me. That's what that is. So this thing, it's instant, but it lets you open caches of creation, which are either treasures that you find out in the world. Admittedly, those are currently bugged, but it's besides the point. Or they can be world quests. So at the very least, right now, it gives you access to an additional world quest every day, which is very, very big. And those give pretty decent rewards. Presumably, the ones that you find out in the world will also give good rewards when they're actually not bugged. And then this one is just, the first... You need to research this, right? It doesn't really do anything. It's just like... gives you buffs while out in the world. These are all useless, though. Echo Giro, it gives you additional Progenitor Essentia from Gathering. That's the only good thing. Progenitor Essentia is the name of that, like, Korthite crystal equivalent. So that's good, right? But that's only if you're really into gathering. So I forgot to mention that, yes, you do have a rare chance of getting it while gathering, but you can still get it by opening chests and stuff like that. And all of that stuff you're going to have to do anyway for like reputation and ciphers currency and stuff. So unless you're like literally just trying to make gold, which I mean, some people are, this is pointless. But maybe if all you care about is making money and having a small additional chance to get Progenitor Essentia, all right, yeah, I guess you research this. But it doesn't actually benefit you in terms of like raid progression or something. This is just basically you can track the things that give you this buff. And this is what I was talking about. It's 130 ciphers, the first ones, which, mind you, you need to save up 220 to get this really, really, really important thing right here. And then this one's also really important, 60, not insignificant. This is another 200, right? So having to spend 130 for, as mentioned, allowing you to customize Pokepok's appearance, that's a very expensive cost for something that just lets you put a pirate hat on Pokepok. Now, this is effectively useless, right? It's spending Pokepok energy. I can show that in a little bit. That actually might be nice for a speed run, but it doesn't really matter. Like I said, I don't really care too much. I thought about stopping the timer, but I don't really give a shit. This one's also very important. This unlocks quest line, which, you know, gives you additional rep and stuff like that. So nothing super important. It's a quest line right around this area. But it is free reputation. So I would say don't do this immediately because it has an instant research time. Save your ciphers, but you are going to want to get this at some point because it unlocks a quest line. This is useless. This is useless. This is useless. This is useless. All this does is gives you better buffs while you're exploring in Zereth Mortis. Garbage, right? Then you go to Dialic. This one is really, really, really good. It grants you access to, it says, like, a synthesis forge. That's not very important. It's basically a thing that you can use to craft battle pets, which, you know, I'm not going to cover, but if you care enough, you can look into the synthesis forge. Not really my cup of tea, but, you know, if you're into battle pets, that could be something interesting. And this is... basically, so what this does, how do I explain this? Dialic Understanding lets Pokepok control Coreless Automa, and this basically expands the amount of Coreless Automa that you can get and also marks them on the map. What's important about this is some of the Coreless Automa, I'm not going to go into detail, but some of them are required to actually get certain treasures. So this is actually really important, but obviously... it has an instant research time, so you're going to do it like last. Doesn't really matter. And this is also really important. It buffs the Synthesis Forge. Once again, doesn't matter. But it unlocks additional quests in the Endless Sands, which is this region over here, which means that you get more reputation, cipher stuff. It also unlocks a chest, which gives you more legendary currency. So this is really important. This thing doesn't matter. This entire tree, if you look at it, allows Pokepok to choose a stance. The lore concordances thing is literally just a flavor, like, lore text thing. Pokepok can take control of a better Coreless Guardian. Doesn't matter. Doesn't actually unlock anything new. Gives Pokepok a new ability. Gives Pokepok a new ability. Pokepok has more energy to do more abilities. Doesn't matter. This entire last tree is worthless. So the only things that matter in terms of, like, actually unlocking stuff for raids is this, because it's mandatory to get further in the tree. This, because it gives you chests. This, because you need to get further in the tree. This, because it unlocks a quest line. This, because, once again, you need to get further in the tree. This, because it lets you unlock a few treasures that you can't otherwise get. And this, because it unlocks a few treasures and a new quest line. And that's the cipher system. That's it. I actually basically explained the entire thing. Everything I said just there is what I would say in a guide, actually. But there's just nothing to say about it. It's just such a bare bones system that it's basically just like, yeah, this is a mandatory research component to unlock some stuff. That's it. Which is kind of a letdown. Like, that's one of those things where it's not bad. And one of the other things that I hate, that really pissed me off, which I'm like, I'm kind of whatever about, because it's like, they technically didn't lie, and I think maybe they probably just didn't know what they wanted to do with it either. Because going into this patch, right, they had that whole thing about, like, the Atoma language, and they scrapped that. So clearly they hadn't nailed down what they were planning on doing with 9.2. But if you recall, Blizzard said that Ciphers the First Ones was not a required system for raiding. And that was honestly a half-truth. Because the reality is, it is. If you want to be really, really optimal in terms of early on stuff, I would say it's not a requirement for raiding if you are coming to the patch late. Like, let's say you join 9.2 a few weeks after it comes out. Do you need to do Ciphers the First Ones? Not at all. You don't need to give a shit about it. But if you're starting at the very beginning and you want to be as prepared as possible when the new raid comes out, and like on the same level as your group members who are presumably doing the same stuff, you need to do Ciphers the First Ones. Because a lot of stuff is gated behind rep with the Enlightened faction. And a lot of the stuff in Ciphers the First Ones gives you more rep with the Enlightened by either giving you just a extra chest or something like that, or like access to new like areas, or giving you a new quest line, which gives rep, stuff like that. It gives you access to things which just give you an advantage. So, like, yeah, technically speaking, once everybody is already exalted with the Enlightened and in the raid, there is no advantage granted by it compared to, like, Shards of Domination, right? So, there's nothing in that tree that actually makes your character better in combat. But if there is something that makes your character better in combat, i.e. double legendaries or a 291 legendary or something like that, and that's locked behind a reputation, and there's another system that speeds up the rate at which you acquire rep for that reputation, then yes, it does give you power. It gives you power in a very roundabout way, sure, but that's still a form of power increasing. And you know what? I don't hate it. Like, so that's why I'm not super against it, because I think that's a better way to do it, I guess, than, like, you know, Shards of Domination. Fuck Shards of Domination. The only thing that pisses me off is that they went on record saying that, you know, you didn't need to do Ciphers the First Ones, and it's just not true, right? Like, when they say stuff like that, you need to go into it with the assumption that, like, literally it's a pure cosmetic thing. If they're saying that, like, if they want to argue that nobody needs to do it, then the assumption is you only do this if you want to. There's nothing in there that should make somebody feel forced to do it for another form of content. And that's just not how they designed it. So, one of two things happened. Either their vision of what the system was changed, which is possible, but doesn't really excuse saying that, or they have a different vision of what it means to have some content be mandatory. And that's what I assume it is, right? I think that what happened is they just don't register that in their minds as, like, being mandatory content. Like, for them, the idea that, like, people feel forced to do it is probably, like, weird. Like, they're probably like, you know, kind of what I just said, where if you want to enter raids, you can just take your time with the reputation. But the reality is that's just not how things work for a lot of people who are really into Mythic raiding. For me, if I want to be viable in Mythic raiding and I want to help my guild push as fast as possible, regardless on, I'm not even saying this guild, right? Just, I say my guild as a general statement. Whatever guild I happen to be in at the time, I would put in the same level of effort. And that's because, yeah, it's kind of just a general expectation now with most guilds, at least in the Mythic scene, that you're going to be putting in as much effort as possible to prepare your character for raid. That's just how it is. So, sure, a casual player may not feel the need to grind the system, but the reality is a casual player didn't feel the need to grind Shards of Domination. Like, if you're a casual player, you don't give a shit about min-maxing your damage, because what are you going to min-max your damage for? So saying that something is not a required system is generally supposed to be said with the assumption that it's not required for anybody, including the top end of players, which just isn't the case with ciphers. So I dislike that aspect of it. You can also just look at it with the lens of Blizzard lied, but admittedly, I don't think Blizzard lied. I do think this was just a case of them not fully understanding what it is they wanted with the system, or maybe just some miscommunication, which, like, happens, I guess. I'm still a little bit annoyed, but I'm not gonna, like, be like, Blizzard, you know, you assholes, right? It's just, I get to groan, right? I think I, you know, can do at least that. We go there. So, fun thing about, this. This little teleportation system, apparently there's like a little hidden treasure that has something to do with this teleportation network. Because it's still accessible even after this quest ends. But nobody seems to know exactly how it works. I'm going to do a bad job at explaining that, so I'm just not going to bother. Oh yeah, this quest is weird. So you take control of this robot, and then you need to basically go around and break up these rubble piles. So you can't actually fight. You can only break the rubble piles, disable enemies, and shield yourself. So I'm going to disable the big guy. Jump up here. It is actually possible to fail this quest, so I'm going to play it carefully. Wait, this isn't... Oh, this is the final rubble pile. Fuck. I'm getting ahead of myself. I might have actually fucked up by doing it. Okay. Well, I'm shielded for now. Then the rubble pile is over here. Okay, that one is done. Shield myself and break this last rubble pile. Yeah, and then the last rubble pile was the one that I went up to before. I forgot that it was like the final one that you had to do. Whoops. Come on. Come on. I have to do some stuff. Hit the shield. Got one. Come on. Oh, I made it. Yes. That was actually kind of clutch. All right. Now I send to Secundus Locus. Ooh. There we go. Okay. Now, in order to get cosmic energy for this, you need to kill the mobs in this like little beam of energy, and they drop those little orbs in the ground, and you have to collect it. The longer a mob has been sitting in here, you can see that buff over its head. So it'll drop more stacks of cosmic energy. So a lot of times, you know, you'll want to wait for a mob to just sit here and accumulate cosmic energy. And then after it's soaked up a bunch of it, then you can kill it. Now I have 31, so I can get to the next area, but it's not efficient for me to just sit here and farm cosmic energy. I'm going to want to move on as quickly as possible. I also want to cancel Rushing Jade Wind, because I don't want to immediately pull the mob as it loads in. Alright. So you need 30 to activate the teleporter. And I need to go to Tertius Locus. So every teleport costs 30. Now I need to get more. And now because these mobs have both been soaking energy. Ooh. No, but That other mob landed the killing blow before I got the chance. So it didn't end up dropping all of its energy. That's unfortunate. I was really close to being, like, insane. Now I'm going to let this mob soak up just a little bit. And then I want it to get at least 3. And when it gets 3, I'll pop it. There we go. It's going to generate a little bit more, but I did want to be sure. And extra cosmic energy won't hurt. And then I want to get out of here before Rushing Jade Wind accidentally pulls something else. Then I need to ascend to Quartus Locus. Where's that? Quartus Locus. There we go. And... oh, that's a big boy. Oh, it's a lot of cosmic energy. Yeah. Whoa. So this isn't necessarily a bottleneck per se, but imagine if somebody is constantly killing those mobs, they'll never have a chance to build up cosmic energy. But like right there, because the mobs were still alive, and they were already at 10 cosmic energy. So the moment I got there, I was able to just get a ton. So here, there's 3 mobs. I'm just going to let them soak up for a bit, because this is, like, good. Usually they only have 2. So having 3 means I can let them just juice. Ooh. And there's more coming in. I want to make sure I get the tag on this. So... Hunter hasn't done anything yet. He's going in. Okay, I'm tagging. I'm not going to let him steal my juice. Alright, lots of cosmic energy. Oh! 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 Delicious. Yeah, and that, like, funded my next teleport, too. Perfect. Yeah. All the way past 60. Awesome. Now, Quintus Locus is that one. Now, from here, all I need to do is grab the rune. And then I can immediately teleport up to the end. Ultimus Locus. There we go. That's Ultimus Locus. Alright. And... Pokapok. Where the fuck are you? There he is. Alright. Pick this up. Shit. Didn't mean to do that. Oh well. Jump. Carry over the Tiger's Law speed buff. Ah. Right. Oh yeah, I got done ranting about the cipher system. What else? Oh yeah, so anyways, point I was trying to say before is, while I will absolutely make that legendary video at some point, I'm not 100% sure if I'll have time for it this week. We'll kind of see. But the thing about, like, a video like this, right, is a lot of people may look at something like this and be like, hey, you know, it's a multiple hour-long video. Doesn't this take more effort than making, like, a 10-minute video? And, like, I remember I had to explain this to my mom, because my mom was wondering, like, why I basically, I'll say, like, I think I was saying that, like, oh yeah, it's easier for me to do, like, a long speed run or something like that. And she didn't understand it, and I had to explain this to her. And it's because a long video like this doesn't require any editing. So obviously I need to actually, like, you know, do the thing correctly. And it's not like an easy video, because, you know, I can't do these all the time. First of all, there's a reason that I stopped doing, like, WoW leveling speedruns. Just, there's no point in doing them. I've already done them a million times. So I'm not just going to keep beating a topic to death and doing a million videos on the same thing that I've covered before. That's just not interesting for me, honestly. So that's one reason I can't just keep doing these styles of videos. Also, the other thing is, I like to give narration over these things. I could just sit here and, like, not talk for, you know, however long it is. But, I don't think that's interesting, you know? I feel like if people watch this, like, some people are going to watch it just for the purpose of, like, understanding what the campaign's going to be like and knowing how to complete it effectively. But I know a lot of people watch this for entertainment purposes. And, you know, if I'm just sitting here saying nothing, just mindlessly doing the quests, then it's just not going to be terribly interesting, right? Okay, then I can roll over here, throw it to Pokepock, grab the Cosmic Orb. This one I do need to focus a little bit. Ooh, this is nice. Really good spawn. Get 2 in one sitting. Some of these, if you're, like, unlucky, like here, you may not be able to get both Cosmic Orbs back in time. Like, yeah, there, I'm not going to be able to get that second Cosmic Orb before it despawns. But if they spawn close together, you can get both at once. Oh, get it to Pokepock. Nice. Oh, perfect. Perfect RNG. Still need one more, though. Come on. Oh! Amazing luck. Alright. Cool. But yeah, so stuff like this, it requires effort, right? But all I need to do is, like, do preparation. Like, I told you at the start, I jotted down notes. So I spent, like, about 45 minutes jotting down general notes on what I wanted to talk about so I could, like, keep my train of thought going during the video. I did, as I mentioned, multiple practice runs of this, but admittedly, the practice runs I was gonna do anyway, so, like, I don't really count that as, like, time spent doing this video. And, you know, especially sometimes I don't even do that. Like, for the classic leveling thing, I didn't do a practice run of that. I just logged into classic and started leveling a character. But for something like this, I wanted to at least have a general idea. Oh, shit. No, I don't. It's not the quest. Bolvar advised. Okay, so I need to head back to Haven. But yeah, so for stuff like this and for, like, the actual leveling speedruns that I did before, those I would do practice runs. And that takes, like, a decent amount of effort, but that's all it takes. Then, okay, now I can fly. Yeah. So that is, yeah, a means to an end. Okay, so that is the way that you get the thing. And now I'm pretty sure flying would be faster than taking the flight path at this point. Cool. Which is funny, because that means that there's only one campaign chapter that I can now actually use flying for, which, like, oh well. This actually might be faster than I thought, because like I said, I thought it would fall somewhere between 3 and 4 hours, and this is going to be under 3 hours, even with me stopping to, like, ramble about ciphers the first ones for 5 minutes, so it actually might not end up being too long, which is good. Oh yeah, this part of the questline's about making the new Arbiter. Which, like, if you looked at Wowhead, you already know what's going to happen here. And I hope that I don't need to say this, but, like, this entire story is really dumb. Like, I haven't really commented on it, because I'm so indifferent to it at this point. It's just, I dropped my, my empty, so not a big deal. I dropped my empty cup of coffee on the ground. Accidentally knocked it over. Your Pelagos zone. There we go.
But that area is overrun by Mossworm.
Speak with Fareem.
You and Pelagos speak to the
Additional aid from the Enlightened.
Surely the Covenants will aid us.
Awaken Kabato. That's Kabato. Forgot about this. This part I've literally only ever done once. I did the last section on my warrior. The one that we just finished. But this section I've only done once on my main monk. So it's definitely the rustiest part of the campaign for me. Right, so I need to head down there.
There you are. Meet us near the Eternal Cliffs, Kabato.
And
It's time to fight back against the Mossworm.
alright. Yeah, so I do dislike how they move the thing back. Maybe I'm crazy. I could have sworn it used to be you had to complete Chapter 5 of the Covenant campaign. Maybe I am crazy. I don't know. Anyways. But yeah, so... these videos take a lot of time, right? But that's nothing compared to, like, actually sitting down and editing a video. Even something comparatively easier, like the 18-minute, like, alt catch-up video, which wasn't too difficult, that takes a lot of time. That's a lot of stuff that I need to sit down and edit. You know, you have to do the narration, then sync the narration, etc., etc., etc. Anybody that knows about video editing knows this stuff, right? But, like, you know, I realized after talking to my mom that a lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people don't realize how long it takes to edit videos sometimes. Even something that's 18 minutes long can take infinitely longer to make than something that's 5 hours long but has zero editing. So that's one of the nice things about these videos. In terms of, like, challenge, it can be a little bit much because I need to literally sit here for the 3 hours it takes, and I need to plan it out and play appropriately, etc. But in terms of raw time taken, this is a much less arduous thing, I guess, for lack of a better word, than having to spend days on end editing in Adobe Premiere some video. So I pushed this up because I knew that I could, like, just sit down and get it done in 3 hours once I had done my research. And like I said, I finished my research. I'm doing it right now, but at the time I was like, you know, basically when I was thinking about what I was going to upload today, which was like a few days ago when I had to make that decision, I figured, okay, I can either, like, hope that I'm able to find every single rare mob and then edit that entire video in time, or I could just spend a bit more time finishing my, like, practice runs for leveling and then put together a full speedrun of it. And one of them required much less work than the other, especially considering, you know, I can gather, like, I got footage for the rare mob video while doing the speedrun, so basically I'm able to chip away at the rare mob video more over time than I am like this, because I need to dedicate 3 hours to do this. But this way, I forget. No, okay, I couldn't remember exactly how I do this quest, but now I remember. Okay, so I want to do a big pull here. Motivates confused automata, rally to your side. And then I can Touch of Death this guy when he gets low enough. I'll pop Corporate, then boom. Gotcha. And then we need to kill a bunch of these guys because they drop Dominator's keys. And then I need to get Motivated Automa. So there's 6 of these that I need to grab. They're all over the place, though. And then after I get all 6, I need to drag them back. So that's 4. I have 3 keys, meaning if I do a big pull of you, you, and you, I should get at least 3 more keys. It's not a guaranteed drop chance, but with 5 mobs, say I have a better than average chance of getting all 3. And I'll focus up so I can do this properly. Alright. Ah, shit. I didn't realize they could block the interrupt. And yeah. So the point I was trying to make, though, I am gonna get that legendary video done at some point. I might be able to rush it out this week. That said, yeah, it's coming regardless. Now, I'm saying this primarily because I put up a poll on my channel. It's up there. Wait. Hold up. That doesn't make sense. The hell is that? Oh, that's High Reaver Damar. Okay. I was about to say that, like, that's a rare mob that I've never heard the name of. Edra the Willgrazer. But it's actually High Reaver Damaris. That's the rare mob, and I know that one. And the... I guess its horse is called that. Interesting. That one I already had footage of, though. So, I guess a preview for the, this thing. There's one achievement for Adventurer and Zareth Mortis. This is the rare mob achievement. But there's actually 3 additional rares on top of that for the achievement called Dune Dominance. So this is the special rare encounters, and they are not listed on Adventurer and Zareth Mortis. So there's technically more than just in the Adventurer achievement. Now, this is particularly tricky, because this reminds me of... if you played during... did I get all the keys? Actually, I know I'm getting distracted. I'm sorry, but... Yeah, I have all of them. Shit. Alright, I should not be killing mobs then. I don't need to. Fine, just, I'll touch a death, get out of combat. I have the Atoma. I can deliver them to the drop-off point, and then find cages to open. So if you played during 8.2 in Nazjatar, right? So I min-maxed the shit out of that patch. I did the same thing where, like, I try to get every single rare mob. And anybody who tried to get every single rare mob in that patch will know about the Hydra Matriarchs. So the Hydra Matriarchs were, like, these rares where they had, like, a 3-hour spawn timer, so really, really long respawn time, and only one would spawn at a time. And they were each a different rare, basically. And the problem with that is they weren't guaranteed to cycle. So it was entirely possible... I actually did that really well. Okay, how am I going to do this one? I might just need to get... Nice. Yeah, I'm out of CC, so I can't... What I'll have to do is... No, I need to just kite and look for a cage after these mobs reset. There's too many. I'm not going to be able to get it. Unless I have Ring of Peace. Maybe? So... Ring of Peace, unlocking. Fuck, yes. Whew! Okay. Then I just need to kill Oracle Varaxi. Jump. Nice. And... make it up this way. Yeah, so the Hydra Matriarchs were really annoying because each of them counted as their own unique rare. They shared a respawn time, but it was random which one would spawn. So there were literally some days on some servers where you just wouldn't get the Hydra to spawn. Now, technically speaking, if people posted it in Group Finder in time, you could get every single Hydra every single day, because, you know, on average, it would be up, or every Hydra would be up on some server at some point. But that was a lot of work just to get 3 rare mobs. Really annoying, which is one of the reasons why I farmed that. Those Hydra pets sold for a fortune. I remember making a shitload of gold off those. But that's besides the point. These guys, admittedly, one nice thing about them is they're much harder to kill than the Hydras, but they work exactly like the Hydras. So basically, there's 3 rares that spawn in that spot. The guy that we just saw, High Reaver Damaris. There is Iska, Outrider of Pain. I used her as B-roll in one of my recent videos, so you can see her there if you want. And then the last guy, Reanimatrox Marzan, who I only know about from Wowhead and the achievement. Oh yeah, fun fact about this. You can mash the 1 button and just delete mobs. So this is supposed to be a channel, but it does instant damage, right? So you're supposed to go like this, and it just channels over time and kills mobs. And there's like an AoE button that you can press here. But I could just do this. Just laser these mobs. It's so fun. This guy's supposed to have a lot of health, but I just like spam the 1 button. It's killing my hand. Just delete the mob. So that's one fun way to do this quest. Just mash 1. Boom, boom, boom. Just destroys everything. It's so dumb. This is definitely not intended. You're supposed to have to, like, do that ability, and there's no way to cheese those. But yeah, it wants you to do this, and slowly, you know, chip away the mobs, then do a little channel there, and stuff like that. And, like, you know, this is the big attack. Like, you have to charge up twin beams, and boom! It actually doesn't do that much damage. Oh no! Or, I just hit 1. Delete it. It's so dumb. I love it though. It's actually kind of fun. I would say this is the most fun part of the campaign, just because of this stupid X-play where you can just delete mobs. But unfortunately, you need to use the Twin Beam spell on this thing. It doesn't let you. Ah. I don't need to do this. I'm just having fun. Alright. Twin beams. And... Yep, there we go. And now on to the next part. Wait, oh! Ah, it does that, huh? Not a big time loss because we have flying now, so... Oh, shit. So here's one annoying thing. I'll demonstrate it. Can I get into combat with the Mossworn Herald? Yeah. Watch what happens. They put this in the game. Yep. Anti-flying mechanics. Everybody's favorite. So, yeah. If you fly too close to one of those people, they dismount you. I actually do think that's pretty annoying, and I don't know why it's there. Like, why? Why put a new mob in the zone that just dismounts people? It's not even like there's anything, like, wrong with flying there. It's intentionally there to piss you off. It's like, why? I don't know. It's stupid. Ah. Yeah, but those rares in the dunes are going to be really fucking annoying, because I still haven't seen Reanimatrox Marzan. I've seen Iska, Outrider of... or I keep calling her Outrider of Pain, but I think it's like Outrider of Ruin, actually, and I said the name wrong. But yeah, I've seen Hyrule Damaris there and Iska multiple times. Like, it's always one of those two. Every single time I see one spawn, because it'll say, like, you get a global message. That's another reason why it's not super bad. There's a global message that says something like, there's churning going on in the dunes, or whatever. And then, like a minute or two later, a rare mob will spawn there. But it doesn't tell you which one. And since it's random, it's like every time I see that message, I go over there, and it's not fucking the Reanimatrox. I'm just like, god damn it. So, that could be really, really annoying. It's like the Hydras all over again, but what I'm hoping is that because they're actually quite difficult and require you to run with a group, I'm hoping that it means people will basically be forced to look for help for them. Because the issue with the Hydras, especially, is the Hydras were just really easy. Like, they had no health. They could be soloed by literally anybody. So the only way that you would actually find a group up for the, like, Nazjatar Hydras is if somebody already knew that they were a pain in the ass to get and was like, oh, I'll just throw this up in LFG because somebody might be looking for this rare. And this might surprise you, but that level of goodwill isn't exactly easy to find within World of Warcraft. You're not going to find too many people who just, like, out of the blue say, I'm going to do this thing that benefits me in no way whatsoever because it might benefit some random stranger that I don't know. I'm going to be honest, I don't do that 99% of the time. Usually I'll do the bare minimum of, like, I'll say in general chat, I'll be like, X rare mob is up, pulling in 2 minutes, or something like that. So anybody that needs it, that sees that message, can be like, oh, I need that. I'm going to go over there and get it. That's, like, the bare minimum that I do. Is there's no orb up here. It's pointless. But I'd be lying if I said that I was, like, you know, the most helpful person in, like, posting stuff in LFG. A lot of times it is just not worth my effort. And the main reason I don't do that, admittedly, I know this is kind of a shit excuse, but a lot of times, you know, if I post that thing in LFG, because I have done this before, you get some people that really need it, and they message you and they're like, oh, thank you so much, that was the last rare I needed. And for super duper ultra rares, like, admittedly, I did it for the Hydras, so there's that. The Hydras I knew were a pain in the ass. Whenever I killed a Hydra, I posted in an LFG. But not always. For some of the other rares, for instance, if I posted in an LFG, and, like, I got, let's say, 5 people in there, and then, you know, we have a full group of 5 people or whatever, we could still technically form a raid to kill the rare, but I'm like, you know, okay, we got 5 people, let's pull the rare. And then, like, right after the rare dies, someone messages me and says, can I join? And I'm like, oh, sorry, the rare just died. And they'll be like, oh, fuck you. Like, sorry? Like, apologies that I didn't just wait an indefinite amount of time. And this does happen. I mean, it happens a lot to the point where I'm sure people watching this are probably going, yep, happened to me too. Because I have a lot of friends who just don't give a shit about people for that reason and just will never post something in LFG, and I can't really blame them. A lot of people have the mentality of, like, you know what, if you miss the tag, fuck you. And, yeah. So, and here's the thing, I admit it can be really frustrating, especially if it's like, you know, you say, like, maybe in general chat, like, oh, don't kill X rare, please, and you get there and it dies, like, 2 seconds before, like, you're about to tag it. That's a really tilting feeling. Like, I get that. But I will say, flaming the people that killed the rare, you know, at the end of the day, you know, you snooze, you lose. I've been in both sides of that. It sucks on both sides. It sucks feeling like, ah, shit, we killed it just before that person got there. And it sucks even more being like, fuck, I barely missed the tag. But, you know, that's just the game, right? But yeah, so that rare is going to be annoying. Oh, I didn't finish my point earlier. Right. So yeah, assuming I have time to make the 291 Legendary video, I will say, I mentioned before, I have a poll on my channel for another episode of the Classic WoW leveling, which, similar to this, will still require some effort, but I do plan on leveling through Classic anyway, so it won't require as much effort. That said, it's like, there is a difference between me doing nothing and just casually leveling through Classic and, like, you know, watching something on Netflix, and me actively commenting and, you know, focusing during the entire experience, right? I guess this part of the questline's pretty cool. For some reason, they bring back Argus. Yeah, so you have to fight Argus again. I don't know why. Honestly, this one feels like so out of left field that I'm pretty sure the only reason they did this is because of all the theories on Reddit about, like, oh, you know, the reason that the original Arbiter was paralyzed was because of Argus's world soul. Because I'm pretty sure, if you recall, right, it's explicitly stated at a few points that Denathrius, or maybe not explicitly stated, but implied, that Denathrius is the, oh, shit. But I can just touch Death out. Whoops. Not paying attention. Oops. Yeah, it's heavily implied, and later on explicitly stated, that Denathrius is the reason the original Arbiter got, like, paralyzed. Like, he shot a bolt of anima at her and stopped her. They do eventually confirm that. But a theory for a while was that Argus the Unmaker, a boss in Legion, was the reason that the Arbiter got paralyzed, because his soul was so, like, corrupted that it, like, slammed into her or whatever. And people already kind of, like, question that. You know, it's like, do the souls of Titans actually go to the Shadowlands? Like, would that actually be a thing? Like, we know that, like, the wild gods do, but they're not on, like, the level of Titans. But, like, at this point, does it matter? The lore is already fucked enough as it is. So, my hunch is that Blizzard, like, didn't even think of that. And then they saw all these theories on Reddit about, like, oh, Argus, like, is the reason the Arbiter got beat. And then for this last quest line where you're having to recreate the Arbiter, they're just like, yeah, let's, like, throw in Argus again. But the problem is, it's so random. Like, there's no setup here. It's cool. Like, it's cool to get to fight Argus again. But in theory, we already get to fight Argus in, like, the little amphitheater in Ardenweald. As, like, the memory or whatever. So, I don't know why. But, yeah. No, this is how the questline ends. So there's that. Anyways, what I was saying. Yeah, so definitely it would require more effort to, like, have to do commentary during my classic WoW Hunter leveling. But I'd be willing to do that as, like, a part 2 if there was enough interest. And admittedly, if people wanted to watch that, and that would, you know, fill my videos for that spot in the week, because I do want to maintain, like, a consistent upload schedule, right? I'm not going to, like, just upload videos for the sake of uploading videos, but if people want to watch it, and it allows me to maintain my upload schedule without having to, like, lose sleep, no. It's an enticing prospect. So, that definitely would help. But, I don't know, it's like, I put up the poll there. I wonder if I could Touch of Death him here. Because instantly killing creatures if they have less health than you. He has less health than me, right? So instead of killing the Soul Conduit, could I just save Touch of Death for this? And then go... Yep. Alright. Well, now I know that. And then we have to examine all this stuff. But yeah, I will say, I'll respect the results of the poll as if it's, like, overwhelming. Like, to me, the polls, I should probably make this more clear. The polls aren't necessarily like a, this is what I'll do, because, like, at the end of the day, like I already said, there's a chance that I just might not, like, might not have time to make another 9.2 video more than I had initially planned, or I might decide to just take that and roll it into a larger video. And then suddenly I have room to make an extra video about something else. Oh yeah, and now Pelagos is the new Arbiter.
Is it still you?
So, assuming I still have enough to make a video on, I should say, a lot of it depends on... Well, I was going to say a lot of it depends on when 9.2 is coming out, but I guess we also don't really know exactly when that's going to be, huh? So, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But definitely, if you want to see that video, like, if you want to see the classic WoW thing, vote for it.
After so long.
Like, I guess if you also really don't give a shit about the classic WoW thing, then, like, you can vote against it, I suppose. Go to Orbos. But I'm more just, I put that in there to gauge interest. Like, I figured if I worded it like, would you rather another 9.2 video or a classic WoW video, more people would vote on it, in the sense that I'd get more of a picture on, like, how many people were actually interested. If I worded it just, would you want another episode of the classic, like, WoW Hunter leveling thing, a lot of people probably just like wouldn't care enough to vote. So point I'm trying to make, I guess, is I don't necessarily know if it's going to come down to, you know, one versus the other. It might, but it might not. If it does, I'll respect the results of the poll, but it's entirely possible that I'll end up just cutting a 9.2 video for other reasons, and then I will make the classic WoW Hunter thing. But in that case, I would also like to know how many people are genuinely interested in that. The poll shows me that at least enough people are interested, but that was something important. Okay, so this is it, right?
And we must change with it.
Not yet. This is where you get the legendary belt, by the way. Okay. So that's the double legendary thing. But if we noticed, that quest was Souls Entwined, and they added requirement Souls Entwined to the Covenant legendary. Or the double legendary. So now, no matter what, you will not be able to get your double legendary by grinding rep, which is actually kind of a big deal. Because that means that you can't, like, farm a ton, which was, like, what people were thinking before. You can't, like, farm a ton, get the memory before the belt, and then craft it before, you know, the campaign unlock. Now you actually have to finish that part of the campaign. So now when I get to Revered, I can get this. That said, in order to craft a 291 version of this legendary, you still need to hit Revered, because you still need to be able to get this memory, plus, you know, completing this part of the campaign. So it's still important, but, like, for instance, I was thinking of it from a standpoint of, like, if I grinded really hard before Mythic Raid releases, then, in that sense, maybe I could get the memory and get to Revered before the Mythic Raid came out. But what we think is going to happen, right, if we look at the campaign, Into the Unknown, We Battle Onward, Forming and Understanding, those three are coming out day one. Then the week after that, which is supposed to be Heroic Week, I think, maybe not, I'm not 100% sure, Forging a New Path. Then Mythic Week is Crown of Wills. I think, I'm pretty sure about that. Could be wrong. Then A Means to an End 1 week after that, starting over 1 week after that. So this means that if Mythic Week comes out with Crown of Wills, then you won't be able to get your second legendary until 2 weeks after Mythic Week, or after Mythic release, which is after the World First Race has already ended. So that changes things quite a bit. Changes, like, the order in which we're going to have to, or the plans in which I'm going to have to do stuff. And also, that's 1 week for the first 3, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks total to grind rep. In 5 weeks, you will absolutely be able to hit Revered. Like, easily. Not even min-maxing, clearing the map, everything. So, in a sense, first of all, I wish that this wasn't a thing regardless. I wish that we just had access to double legendaries by Mythic release. I think that locking something this important behind, like, a few weeks into Mythic is just a weird choice. Because it's going to be really annoying to be, like, you know, already progging on a boss, and suddenly we get this large power spike, and now the boss is trivialized because, like, suddenly we all do, like, 12% more damage. That's kind of dumb. But whatever. Like, at the very least, this change is good in the sense that it's better than what we had before, but it's still not good in the sense that there are better options that could exist. But I would rather it be set at unlocking at a specific week instead of having a variable unlock time depending on how fast you manage to grind the reps. So that's nice because it means, A, that I don't need to bust my ass, right? So let's say that I'm unable to find Reanimatrox Marzan one day. I'm not completely fucked because, technically speaking, as long as I'm staying above the threshold required to reach Revered by the unlock of this questline, then I'm fine. Not a big deal. That said, we should probably finish the thing, right? Where's the epilogue? There's supposed to be an epilogue. Is that it? Because it says, complete the storylines below. Epilogue Judgment. Which, did they just not finish that? Here, let me wow at this. Secrets of the first ones. Alright. Epilogue Judgment. Where do I get that? It's not finished yet. I assume it's not going to matter, though, because, I mean, even in the campaign thing, they only show 7 out of 7. So I'm guessing the epilogue is going to be one of those where it's like, you talk to Bolvar, and he gives you a speech, and then you're done. So I guess technically that's the end of the speedrun. Huh. That was faster than I expected. Cool. I think that's nice. Honestly, that wasn't terribly long. And definitely, I would say you can get this down probably all the way to 2 hours. You probably sub 2 hours. I don't think anybody's going to actually try to speedrun this, for the record. And especially then, if you were actually going to speedrun this, there's the whole question of, like, do you skip the first 3 chapters for the speedrun? Do you use flying the entire time? Which I would say, yeah, you probably do. I'm doing this more of like a personal practice thing. But I would say if this ever became like an actual speedrunning thing, which it won't, because who the fuck would? But in that case, you would, you would use flying the entire way, and that would shave off a lot of time. It'd also mean gun shoes suddenly aren't important. But yeah, I would say that realistically, like using the rules that I did for this, if you cut out like all of me being inefficient and me rambling about dumb bullshit, probably could get it down to 2 hours, which is nice. And the important parts were the, first 3 chapters. Now, I will say, last thing, didn't want to clarify on that. Yeah, so I have the video up, or I have the poll up on my channel about the poll. If you really care about the Hunter video, go vote for it. But like I said, that poll is more for me to gauge how many people are interested in the video, and it's only going to be used if I actually need to do a one versus the other type of deal. Which, admittedly, as it stands right now, it's entirely possible that I'll just be looking at it and be like, I don't have time to do the 9.2 video anyways. So I'll have to push that back regardless, meaning that, I'll either not upload or do the Hunter thing, in which case I'll do the Hunter thing, because it's better than not uploading. So we'll see. I did want to put out the poll either way, just to gauge interest. But, I hope that people aren't like, you promised another 9.2 video, when, like, sometimes I just can't do that, right? So just, temper your expectations there. I'm doing the best I can, but this is a lot of work. I'm having to deal with, like, some bugged rares that aren't spawning, and just treasures that, won't work, and it's Oh, I forgot to show this earlier, but, one of the ciphers things, the enhancements, you go over here, you spend 6 Pokepock energy, and it gives you this little anima power thing. There's lots of different options you can get. It's not just these 3. There's even a chance to get, like, a rare power. The rare powers are usually, like, kind of crap, honestly. A lot of them are, like, when you control a Coreless Automa with Pokepock, the Coreless Automa does more damage, which, like, I'd rather have 5% agility, so. There's lots of different things. One of the neat ones I've seen is you can get 10% additional gold from quests, which, like, not bad. I would say if you get that power, because what happens is it goes into your bags, so like right here, and it lasts for 1 hour. So let's say that you are stacking up a bunch of quest turn-ins, and you grab this thing, pop it, and then turn in all your quests. Boom, you just made 10% more gold. So that's probably the coolest interaction I've seen with it, but it's not game-breaking, and probably not super useful. Just thought it was something worth noting. But yeah, that's it for this. Now I gotta, upload this. And then, honestly, while this is, like, processing and all that fun stuff, I'm probably going to be doing more work on finding rare mobs and stuff. Because, well, I want to get that done. I still have a lot of work to go. But anyways, thank you for watching. I hope you found this useful. And hopefully, I will catch you in the either rare mob or treasure video coming out this Saturday. See you then.